we proceed with our normal agenda, I want to acknowledge that we have a very special guest joining us today, and wanted to see if the commissioners agreed that we should amend the agenda so that we can hear from our esteemed mayor first and then proceed with our normal agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend our agenda and allow the mayor the honor of speaking to us.
Second. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The agenda is amended. Mayor Cooper.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Haynes, for that motion. I will be super quick. I'm here really to thank the staff for their hard work in the preparation of the 150 pages of the East Bank document available online for all the public. I hope that you go online and consult this document. I want to thank Lucy and her team. This is a really, you all are plenty busy, but this is an amazing accomplishment. And I want people to look at it and then to ask you all, as you always do, to listen to the public's response and respond. There's no plan that can't be improved. And for you here, I think it's very important to give Nashville a smart growth path. Growth is coming to Nashville. How do we manage it so that it is a smart growth path to make us a better community? Now, in the plan, I think are great deliverables for our community. Resilience, amazing traffic and transportation improvements are available, cultural and educational opportunities, parks and greenways opportunities that the city has simply never had, and then such important things like affordable housing. Now, they can only come to us with excellent planning and planning ahead. So it's important to get this plan, for the public to look at it, the public to respond at it, for you all to hear the public, and to come up with a smart growth path for Nashville for such a large project. And I'm grateful to each one of you. Each one of you has remarkable personal and professional accomplishments. I'm grateful that the city can harness that expertise in this moment to coming up with really a great plan. Some of it is in Councilmember Wither's district, a whole lot of it, and he is a special expert on the community input and the community needs, and ultimately how we grow together as a community. We have growth. Can we make it so that we have a better city at the other end of growth or not? And that's a big job for you all, and I just wanted to come and thank you. But particularly for Lucy's staff, this is an additional major burden to get into planning something so large. Just the stormwater and resilience portion of it would be extremely exciting. But you add to all these other community benefits that I think is possible when you lead us to planning ahead. And we've not really had that opportunity as a city to take a large section and not do it parcel at a time, but to begin to look at the scope of what can be achieved if we plan ahead. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Vice Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Mayor, if I may, thank you for your leadership and guidance, as well as that of your team, and the incredible sort of work that's been done here. And we're very grateful for the discussion as a community and the opportunity to comment on the plan. So thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you. And yes, congratulations to Lucy and staff. That is quite a document and an exciting process to come for the East Bank. Okay, so I guess we are going to go back to our normal agenda. The first item, well, we've already called to order. First item is the adoption of the agenda. We should all have an updated version of the agenda at your desk.
Move approval.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The next item is the approval of the July 28th, 2022 meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review, and do I have a motion to approve? Great. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The next item is the recognition of council members, and I guess we have a few here today. Council Lady Evans?
Good afternoon. I have two items on the agenda today, but the one that I wanted to draw your attention to is item number 10, which is a request to amend section 17 to be able to delete size limitations on veterinarian offices. And there is a substitute that has been recommended by planning. I support the substitute, and so that is what I will move forward with at the council level. But the impetus for this really stems for me from the tornado. The commercial stretch of District 12 that I have has a Panera Bread that a potential leaser wants to convert into a veterinarian's office. And we hit a lot of issues related to the size requirements because Panera Breads are not 2,500 square feet. And so we went down this path with Joey Hargis and the Board of Zoning Appeals. And so hopefully this will help bring more vets into kind of unusual spaces in the community. So I'd appreciate your support and thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Syracuse.
Test. I guess it's already on. Thank you so much. Good to see you, commissioners. I have two items on your agenda, items 14 and 17. 14 is Pennington Mills. It's a 42-home single-family development. It's just 6 more than what they can currently do on existing zoning. The very special thing that we've taken our time to do is I've updated the walk-bike plan to include an amendment that is specific to Pennington Bend. And it's kind of a quasi-greenway / NDOT sidewalk system to ensure that pedestrian connectivity is going to happen as development happens. So this is the first development that includes that policy amendment, and so it's a good thing for the neighborhood there as I try to balance suburban, rural versus regional tourist destinations. So I would appreciate your support on that one. Item 17, Rhythm and Rhymes Daycare. This is an SP to basically allow a modest increase in the number of students that they can have there. As we know, we need more quality daycares across the county and really the region. So this is an SP. It helps protect the character of the existing structure that is there. And I would also add that the policy amendment that I did back in 2018 also helps control the character. So really all this is doing is allowing, based on the size of the building, to allow about 11 more students at this location. So I appreciate your support on that too. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Great, thank you. And last, Councilman Hancock. Council Lady Hancock, sorry.
No problem. I prefer counselor. It's okay. Gender neutral, then you don't have to worry.
That's great.
Okay, so I have 3 items on the agenda today. One is set to be deferred, number 9 to September 8th. One is agenda item number 25, and I've heard no opinion pro or against, and I think that it's consistent with the community plan, so I'm not opposed. One is item number 31, Meadows Inn, to create 4 lots in a area that we had a lot of participation in a previous council meeting a month or so ago. I've had exactly 0 complaints about this and 6 people that have emailed me in support, and we had a community meeting where the property owners came out and, people were able to ask questions. No one had any adverse effects. And at, family compound, they're wanting to build some family homes there. So everyone is super excited about this because it's kind of the nature of this particular area. And I'm in support and just wanted to let you know that. It's on consent anyway, but I just wanted to say, hey, this is the beauty of the Nashville Next policy. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, Council Lady or Councilor Roberts.
Hi, I'm Council Lady Roberts in District 20, and again, always, I want to say thank you all for what you do. Appreciate you. I have 2 things on the agenda tonight. The first one is number 15, which is 2022 SB 048001. This one has been through the Planning and Zoning Committee at the Nations. It's been through the Nations Neighborhood Association meeting. We spent a ton of time going over the details and kind of fine tuning it. This is something the neighborhood is in support of, I'm in support of, and my planning and zoning committee is in support of. My other one is number 18, which is 2022 SP-053001. We did have a little, this isn't a neighborhood association, which is primarily made up of developers, because this area has turned into kind of a fast-growing, faster than we realized that it was going to happen, growing area. We did have some opposition. I asked the Xander group to do a meeting, asked them to do another meeting, and to sum it up, they've done 3 years of meetings almost, and at the conclusion, you're not always going to please all the people all the time, as my two fellow council people will know, but you're going to please, this one is actually to the point where we've pleased most of the people. And in my opinion, this is the highest, best use for this property. This is a blighted area that they are turning into basically a parking lot. Historically, they've been really good neighbors to my neighborhood because they created a crosswalk back in 2015 that they, did out of goodwill, but by allowing the people to come from the other side of Charlotte to their facility. I'm fully in support of this, and I do recognize that there will be a few people that are maybe not in support. However, those people do not actually live in the area. They do own property in the area, which on this hill that this area is in, that is kind of the nature of the beast. There are a lot of people that own properties that aren't necessarily residents. So with all that said, I would ask for approval on both of these, and I appreciate what y'all do. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Any other council members? I think we're good. Okay. The next item is the items for deferral or withdrawal. So Lisa.
The following items are for deferral or withdrawal, starting on page 3 of your agenda. Item number 1, 2007 SP 048001, Zion Hill SP Amendment. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th Planning Commission meeting. Item number 2, 2022 SP 040001, 2635 Gallatin Avenue Dog Daycare. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. On page 4 of your agenda, item number 3, 2022 SP 049001, 15th and Church. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. Item 4A, 2022 HLI 001001, and the associated 4B, 2022 NL 001001. It's a historic interior landmark overlay and a neighborhood landmark overlay. Staff recommendations is to defer both items indefinitely, and I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from those items. Item number 5A, 2022 Z078PR001, a rezoning on Walton Lane. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. The associated case 5B, 484P004, Arrowhead PUD cancellation. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. On page 5 of your agenda, item number 6, 2021 S122001, re-subdivision of Lot 18, Sharondale Heights. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. Item number 7, 2022 S155001, 1708 Carville Avenue. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. Item number 8, 2022 S090001, Winston Heights Concept Plan. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. Item number 9, 2022 S180001, Stable Court Concept. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. On page 6 of your agenda, item number 12, 2021 SP 091001, Pinhook Ridge. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting. And I would like to note that Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from that item. On page 7 of your agenda, item number 20, 2022 SP 055001, Bellevue Townhomes. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th Planning Commission meeting. On page 8 of your agenda, item number 24, 2022 Z076PR001. It's a request to rezone on Pecan Street. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th meeting, and I would like to note that Councilmember Blackshear Commissioner Blackshear is recusing herself from that item. I gave you a promotion. Item number 9. I'm sorry, on page 9, item number 30, 2022 S095001, Green Lane Subdivision. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 8th Planning Commission meeting. And on page 10 of your agenda, item number 32, 2022 S151001, 0 Old Hickory Boulevard. Staff recommendation is to defer to the September 22nd Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, commissioners, you have heard the list for items for deferral or withdrawal. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next is the consent agenda.
As a notice to the public, items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. I'm going to read through the case number of the items that are on tentative consent, and I will ask if there is anyone in opposition. If there is anyone in opposition to the items, please raise your hand. Any items that receive opposition will be presented when they come up on the agenda. Item number 10, 2022Z010TX001, text amendment related to veterinarian establishments. Is there anyone in opposition to item 10? Item 10 will be on consent. Item number 11, 2018 SP 068003, 0 Buena Vista Pike SP amendment. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 11? Item 11 will be on consent. Item number 14, 2022 SP 047001, Pennington Mills SP. Is there anyone in opposition to item 14? 14 will be on consent. Item 15, 2022 SP 048001, Modera Nations. Is there anyone in opposition to item 15? 15 will be on consent. Item number 16, 2022 SP 051001, 12610 Business Park. That's on page 7. Is there anyone in opposition to item 16? 16 will be on consent. Item 17, 2022 SP 052001, Rhythm and Rhymes SP. Is there anyone in opposition to item 17? 17 will be presented. Item 19, 2022 SP 054001, 1622 Rosa L. Parks Boulevard. Is there anyone in opposition to item 19? 19 will be presented. Item number 21, 2022Z068PR001, a rezoning on Decatur Street. Is there anyone in opposition to item 21? 21 will be on consent. Item 22, 2022Z071PR001, a rezoning on Highland Ridge Drive. Is there anyone in opposition to 22? 22 will be on consent. 23, 2022Z075PR001, a rezoning on Cherokee Avenue. Is there anyone in opposition to item 23? 23 will be on consent. Item number 25, 2022Z079PR001, a rezoning on Delaware Avenue. Is there anyone in opposition to item 25? 25 is on consent. Item number 26, 2022Z080PR001, a rezoning on Meade Avenue. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 26? 26 will be presented. Item number 27, 2022S179001, Entrust Homes on Paragon Mills. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 27? 27 will be on consent. Item number 28, 2017S254004, Riverview at Cumberland Hills. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 28? 28 will be presented. Item number 29, 2021S227001, Resubdivision plat of lot 364 of the plan of DT McGavick. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 29? 29 will be on consent. Item number 31, 2022S 132001 Meadows End. Is there anyone in opposition to item 31? 31 will be on consent. Item number 33, 2022S 175001 Sheffield Subdivision. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 33? 33 will be on consent. Item 34, 2022S 185001 The Cove. Is there anyone in opposition to item number 34? 34? Okay, 34 will be on consent. Item number 35, 2022S 189001 Lot 3 of Mrs. J.J. Here's Lands Resub. Is there anyone in opposition to item 35? Okay, 35 will be on consent. Vice Chair, I'm going to read through the captions now. As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. The following items are on the consent agenda. On page 5 of your agenda, item number 10, 2022Z010TX001. It's a request to amend the zoning code related to the size of veterinarian establishments. Staff recommendation is to approve with a substitute. On page 6 of your agenda, item number 11, 2018 SP 068003 Buena Vista Pike SP amendment. It's a request to amend a specific plan for property located on Buena Vista Pike to add an additional parcel and permit 15 additional residential units. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item number 14, 2022 SP 047001 Pennington Mills SP. It's a request to rezone from R15 to SP for property located at 2600 Pennington Bend Road to permit 42 single-family lots. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Item number 15, 2022 SP 048001 Modera Nations. It's a request to rezone from IR to SP for property located on 54th Avenue North to permit a mixed-use development. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. On page 7 of your agenda, item number 16, 2022 SP 051001 12610 Business Park. It's a request to rezone from AR2A to SP for properties located on Old Hickory Boulevard to permit a non-residential development. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. On page 8 of your agenda, item number 21, 2022Z068PR001. It's a request to rezone from R6A to RM20NS for property located at 5 Decatur Street. Staff recommendation is to approve RM20ANS. Item number 22, 2022Z017PR001. It's a request to rezone from AR2A to RS7.5, a portion of property located on Highland Ridge Drive. Staff recommendation is to approve. Item number 23, 2022Z075PR001. It's a request to rezone from IWD to RM15ANS for property located on Cherokee Avenue. Staff recommendation is to approve. Item number 25, 2022Z079PR001. It's a request to rezone from RS7.5 to R20 for property located on Delaware Avenue. Staff recommendation is to approve. On page 9 of your agenda, item number 27, 2020S179001, Entrust Homes on Paragon Mills. It's a request to remove a condition from an 8-lot subdivision located on Paragon Mills Road. Staff recommendation is to reapprove with removal of lot width condition. Item number 29, 2021S227001. It's Resubdivision Plat, Lot 364, Plan of DT McGavick. It's a request for final plat approval to create 2 lots on property located on 17th Avenue North. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, including an exception to the compatibility requirement for Lot 2 based on the surrounding area. Item number 31, 2022S132001 Meadows End. It's a request for concept plan approval to create 4 lots on property located on Nowakwa Trail. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, including a variance to the lot depth for Lot 1, for one lot, and approval of a private drive per section 4.2.5.c. And on page 10 of your agenda, item number 33, 2022 S175001 Sheffield Subdivision. It's a request for final plat approval to consolidate 3 parcels into 2 lots and remove the reserve status. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Item number 34, 2022 S185001 The Cove. It's a request for concept plan approval to create 21 lots on property located on Stewart's Ferry Pike. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. Item number 35, 2022 S189001, lot number 3 of Mrs. J.J. Here's Lands Resub. It's a request for final plat approval to create 3 lots on property located on Sawyer Brown Road. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. And under other business, item number 36, new employee contract for Donald Anthony, Christopher Paulson, Hannah Davis, and Ashley Brown. Item number 37, employee contract amendment for Angie Hubbard. And on page 11, item number 41, to accept the director's report.
That was a lot. Well done. All right. So to recount, let's make sure I have all of this right. On the consent agenda tonight, we have items 10, 11, 14, 15, 16, 21, 22, 23, 25, 27, 29, 31, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, and 41.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners?
Move approval.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, so the next step is to recap which cases we're hearing. And so the ones I think we're hearing are items 13, 17, 18, 19, 26, and 28.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have 6 cases tonight. We'll give everyone a minute to clear out and then get started. If you could take conversations out in the hall so we can get started on our agenda. Thank you. Okay, we'll get started with item 13, just making sure that the commissioner that just left is recused on that one. Yes. Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'm Dustin Shane, staff planner. This is item 13, 469 Chestnut Street, SP. This is a request to permit a mixed-use development. Our recommendation is approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Zoning on the site currently is IR, industrial restrictive. The policy is T4 urban mixed-use neighborhood. Here's a look at the site plan showing the layout. Its frontage is on Chestnut Street, Humphreys, and the alley, showing the dedications. Here's some elevations provided. On the top of the screen, you're looking from the northeast. This is the lower side of the site where it reaches 5 stories. And then on the bottom of the screen, you're looking from the northwest along Chestnut Street towards the high side where it reaches 4 stories. I want to note that in the agenda, it said 6 stories, which was a mistake. The tallest portion of the building is 5 stories on the low side. So this is a mixed-use building, 129 multifamily units in the stacked flat format, about 8,700 square feet of commercial uses with a microbrewery proposed at this time. There would be structured parking within the building, below grade and above a little bit, but lined. There'll be 108 spaces, which computes to less than one space per unit. There's no parking required along this corridor because it's an immediate need multimodal corridor. So this parking is not required, but is being provided. The streetscape will be upgraded based on the MCSP plan with the sidewalks, bike lanes, and planting strip required. So we judge that this is consistent with the goals of T4 mixed use that calls for urban mixed-use neighborhoods, sometimes with light industrial, with complete streets, high levels of connectivity. Like I said, this is a multimodal corridor, so this density supports the planned transit here. This area is also in the Wedgwood, Houston, Chestnut Hill Small Area Plan. It's Subdistrict 1, which calls for heights of 3 to 4 stories. There is a provision in there for additional height when you're providing active uses and enhanced streetscaping, and then also when you're accompanied by urban industrial uses. So it's certainly providing those active uses and streetscaping. The industrial use would be the brewery if that does come to light. The heights are basically in line with the plan. It's 4 on the higher side of the site, which is allowed, and then that extra story on the lower side we feel is justified based on those active streetscaping and active street uses and streetscaping. And then also the architecture does respect that industrial heritage of the Chestnut Hill neighborhood. So our recommendation is approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is the applicant here?
Good evening. My name is Greg Fusero. I'm a partner with CIG Communities. We're the developer of this proposed development, and I just want to introduce myself, give you a real quick background on our company. We are primarily multifamily mixed-use developers. We're actually headquartered in Cincinnati, but we've spent a lot of time in this area now for the last 2 or 3 years, and we really focus on doing mixed-use developments that are more urban in character. And as you saw in the visuals here, I think you'll agree that is what we're trying to provide here. I think one of the great benefits to this site and what we're proposing is basically the interaction that we think this development will have with the neighborhood. It's one of the reasons that we are proposing to install a bike path along the front of the building. We're also going to have bike storage and a bike repair room within the development. We're also going to have commercial spaces in this development, the first of which is an Artisan Brewery, which is called Braxton Brewery, which is located in northern Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati. And we're working very closely with Braxton on several Artisan Brewery locations similar to this. We're working with them on one in Louisville, Kentucky right now, and potentially a project that we may do down in Naples. So they've been very active in looking for these urban type situations. We're also going to have on the backside of the building some maker spaces, incubator areas to encourage small businesses at a very reasonable rate to begin their work in this urban environment. So that's kind of an overview of what we're doing here. Happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Patrick Napier, 710 Frida Villa. You're not seeing double. I used to sit over there. So I'm with Fulmer Lucas. We're the engineer on the project. So we'd like to start off, thank the staff for their analysis, finding the project consistent with the supplemental plan and the underlying land use plan. We did receive 17 messages of support. We did, unfortunately, receive opposition from the council member, who we are committed to working with as we move forward at the council level. So we hope he had some concerns about parking, so we are required to perform a TIS at final. So hopefully we can achieve a ratio that is functional and provides the need for the residents and does not burden the neighborhood with parking need. Again, we thank the staff for their analysis and recommendation of approval. We're happy to answer any questions or entertain any conditions that the Planning Commission may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Sean Henry, 500 11th Avenue North, representing the developer here. This is an opportunity to get an urban streetscape really planted, the seed planted here on Chestnut, right here at Humphrey Street. Really set the tone, set the character for what the rest of this street moving east can look like. So you've got this multimodal corridor. You're going to get wide sidewalks. You're going to get street trees, bike lane. I mean, this is really an opportunity, for the whole neighborhood to sort of put a new image, a stamp of image as you come in and out of this area of WeHo. And so we certainly ask for your support. The client has probably spent the past year at least working with the neighborhood, the community. You've got letters of support. You've got a petition with signatures on it. There's been a tremendous amount of public outreach here, community outreach and communication, collaboration. We're a little surprised at what I've heard to be as a communication from the councilman having concerned about this. But it's not 6 stories. That's important. It's only 5 stories and 4 stories on the other elevation. And this property also sits at a lower elevation topographically along Chestnut than the rest of the neighborhood as it rises to the south. So we ask for your support, allow this to move forward, and we look forward to having a wonderful new project there. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
If there's any rebuttal, I'm happy to rebut.
Yes, you will hold your 2 minutes.
Hopefully there won't be any. So.
Thank you. Okay, so is there anyone here speaking in support of this project? Okay. Anyone speaking in opposition? Okay. And I understand the council member is not here, but we have some communication from him.
Hi, yes, the letter from Councilmember Sledge was included on the SharePoint file, and so you should have received that in regards to his concerns related to consistency with the Wedgwood Houston Chestnut Hill plan and the amount of parking provided.
Did I miss it? I don't see it. I don't see his letter. Did you?
Wasn't there someone who had, wasn't there someone who had wanted it to come out?
No, it was pulled by the council member. Is our understanding right?
Okay, never mind.
I see his.
And Lisa, to clarify, you let the council member know that it was on the agenda and that it would be pulled from consent and heard. And so because this is a rezoning, the Planning Commission in this instance would be providing its feedback to council. But ultimately, he does have some discretion as to whether to move the zoning forward. And so, but we would be providing the planning recommendation. Is that correct, Lisa? That reflects your conversation with him?
Yes, that's correct.
And just can I just say the highlights of his letter? Is that helpful for those? It is on the SharePoint. But the reason for disapproval was the use and location do not justify additional height under the Wedgwood Houston Chestnut Hill study plan, and it is overparked for a parcel that qualifies for no parking minimums. So that's the items that he pulled forward. So I will go ahead and Commissioner Tibbs, I assume we should proceed with some discussion, I think so. Even though there's no opposition or support.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Council is recommending you see if there's a rebuttal.
Yes.
Well, all I can say is to reiterate, for clarification purposes, as Mr. Dustin did earlier, this is not a 6-story building. This is a 5-story building and a 4-story building as measured from grade at a higher elevation. So it's a 5-4 structure. And importantly, it's a mixed-use construction project. It's got this artisan brewery in there, and so parking is incredibly important to accommodate visitors into that type of retail facility, restaurant facility. You got to be sure you've got enough on-site parking, and if not, it's going to put extreme pressure that other parts of our city have experienced where there's not adequate on-site parking, and we've got problems parking in front of residential driveways and so forth, and blocking alleys and the like. So we would submit that the engineering analysis of this justifies the amount of parking that's there and necessary, and really is essential to serve the community as well as the property itself. So we encourage you to approve this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. With that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and then we can start discussion. Commissioner Tibbs.
Thank you. Yeah. So I definitely take respect that when a council person has pulled it, and their opinion is very vital, especially understand their community. But since they will have another opportunity, based on the information that I'm seeing, especially from a context standpoint, it really feels like this is, very good solution for this site. Even, the parking and the things that the owner just brought up. But I understand too about the other level, but even in the context of that, I don't feel that it is, I don't really feel like there's anything that I would use to not approve this. So I'm in support of this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I echo the same comment. Of course, we do respect council members' opinion, and council member knows district very well. However, after a staff explanation and explanation from the applicant, I think this project utilizing the location and the topography. So although it's this area calls for 3 to 4 story as far as the design guideline goes, but because of the usage, because of the topography, I think additional height is justifiable. And also the parking requirement, I understand it UDO calls for 0 parking, but because of the environment, because of the nature of the business, I think adequate parking will be until we transit to 100%, multimodal transit lifestyle. We may need certain type of parking. So I think probably between now and council, applicant and council member continue to meet and discuss right amount of parking. But as far as plan presented itself, I think it's meet policy. I think it meets location, and I do appreciate a sensible location utilizing topography. So I am in support of the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Councilmember Withers.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I appreciate the presentation. I believe that there are a lot of good features about this project that would bring amenities to the area, including especially sidewalk improvements, which I know are very important. I'm bothered by the fact that my colleague, who is one of I would say the strongest champion for density probably in this city, has indicated in his letter that his concerns have been expressed early, perhaps going back for a very long period of time, and do not seem to have been addressed at this point. And so that's bothersome to me. And it makes me hesitant to support approval. I know that I wish that he were here to talk a little bit more. I think as a practical matter, understand the need to have parking on site. I've reviewing a lot of the letters. I know there are lots of community members in the Wedgwood, Houston area that I know, as well as in other parts of the city, who are supportive of density and all of those things. And this is kind of in line with the type of thing that they would want to see. But I'm just really bothered that my colleague, who has worked so closely with that Wedgwood, Houston, and Chestnut Hill community, as well as with staff on the UDO. I mean, that was probably, I would say, maybe 18 months of staff time. I definitely respect the position of staff and the analysis about how this fits into that UDO. But I, at least at this moment in time, consider my District 17 colleague to be the expert on that, because he has worked so closely with the community on that, as well as with staff. And if he, in his experience, does not feel that this project meets the criteria for that UDO, then I'm going to support my colleague. But I look forward to the discussion from my colleagues on this commission, and if this goes to council, look forward to that discussion in greater detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Henley?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I do echo, Councilmember Withers' comments, and I'm sure as this continues to move forward, I think Councilmember Sledge will continue to steward it appropriately. I'll speak from the context of being a resident and also participating fairly heavily during the Wedgwood, Houston, Chestnut, the plan. I think, as somebody who lives there and I've seen the growth in that community, as well as the growth that's going to continue to come, and understanding some of the challenges that do come with parking, I think as presented, the need and the desire to have the parking not only for these businesses, but also for the commuters that will come into the community. Again, thinking about my fellow neighbors and understanding that when we do have pretty intensive activity in that area, it does sometimes become a nuisance as our streets become parking lots. I think it's also important to note, to function properly as a business, it's good to have your employees. Not all of them will live in our community as it's becoming more expensive. And so also thinking about the convenience of those that come there. There may be a right sizing that needs to happen with the parking, but I do think that the context around being very active, engaging the street and setting the tone for Chestnut, which is long overdue for this level of pedestrian-focused modifications, and then also for our cyclists. I like the plan. I was glad that it was pointed out very clearly that it is 4 and 5 stories. I saw that it was 6, and it jumped out to me as somebody who's been following along. So glad that was clarified here. But I support the plan as presented, and again would personally follow along to see how Councilmember Sledge kind of stewards the parking piece of it, because I too felt a little bit of concern when I saw that he had such strong comments about the plan. But kudos to how it has been presented.
Thank you. Commissioner Clifton.
Thank you. Yes, I forgot. Sort of a newcomer to this process, at least as of the last few years. So I don't know if this is something that we ever consider at this level, because this clearly is not opposed to a change. And this is what we now, our policy and our guidelines would allow us to do this easily. But it's a change in city law and has to pass the council. They will have their chance to look at that. And I'm just wondering, this is an intensification of use, and it's needed there. It's not clear to me what role we have, given some of the restrictions from the state level, about concerning ourselves with affordable housing. This has been a tradition, a part of our city, which has had a wide range of incomes living there. And I don't know if y'all have heard it, but I understand that maybe our affordable housing is decreasing by leaps and bounds. Just my guess from what I read about. But I know that from a planning perspective, this is the right professional look at it from our planning staff. But what do we say to people who say we're gobbling up parts of this city that have been places people could live on moderate incomes without moving outside of the county? That's not really a hypothetical question if somebody wants to take a stab at it, because it may not be something that would affect my vote of this. I'm just interested.
Well, thank you for that comment, and I'm so glad that we have members of the new housing team. You're not so new anymore, Angie. Angie Hubbard joined the planning department in January, and we're so pleased that we can integrate policy for housing with land use and all of the other work that we do. And so I would say from a big picture policy perspective, we're looking at things around housing delivery, what our housing policy is from a land use perspective. We're looking at utilization of metro-owned land with respect to affordable housing. We're partnering with developers who deliver affordable housing to help us better understand opportunities on metro-owned land, for example. And Commissioner Henley was chair of our affordable housing task force. And so we do, I think, as a commission have by mission and by approach a real care for this issue. And I do think we understand that simply talking about supply side and increasing the supply of housing is not the only answer. So there is I think a whole policy framework there for us to respond to. I do think that the state has specifically prohibited us from taking affordable housing into account as part of a rezoning. And so I must give you that firm guidance not to take into account whether we're delivering affordable housing as part of your rezoning deliberation. But rest assured that we as a city and as a department are committed to finding every single other tool in the toolbox outside of rezoning that will help us as a community address the issue that you brought up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, and also the fine presentation from Mr. Henry and his folks. The state legislature has a lot of experts on this issue, I know, and they'll give us great guidance. But thanks. I understand this meets what we that our staff would want to approve, although it is a change from the law, and the burden is on the changer. And not the changee. Do we have changees? Anyway, I am going to support this today, having said all of that, but I'm very interested in how the council member feels about this. I won't have a vote there, but it'll be interesting because it's a rare thing for it to go through the council if the lawmaker elected by that district does not want it. Thanks.
Thank you. Well done, Commissioner Haynes. You're last.
So getting parking correct in a mixed-use project is more art than science. It's very challenging. I don't think I've ever really disagreed with Councilman Sledge, but in this particular case, the fact that he says it's overparked, I think it's underparked. And I'm curious from the applicant, the number of bedrooms within the 129 units. Do you all know the number of bedrooms?
Greg Fusero again. Two things. The 129 units, the majority of those are studios and one bedrooms. We have a few two-bedroom units as well, but the majority are studios and one bedrooms. With respect to the parking, I walk a fine line too with parking because every parking space we put into a development costs money, whether it's on the surface or underground. So given the choice from a financial perspective, I would always opt to provide less parking. The practicality of that, though, is we're, number one, in a certain respect, discriminating against people that have automobiles if we don't provide enough parking for them. We've gone over the last 20 years from 2 spaces per unit to 1.8 to 1.7. We're parked here at less than 1 parking space per unit. And so I have concerns about that too. I understand wanting to have, cars throughout the neighborhood. We believe that automobile usage will continue to decrease over the next decade. And in fact, in most of our developments, and we do the same thing here, we're putting in chargers for electric vehicles. We see developments currently today still not putting EVs, chargers on their developments. We're doing that because we know what's happening. We agree that automobile usage is gradually diminishing, but personally, I don't know how we do less than what we've proposed. One easy solution is, because we're going to build that park, we have to build that floor anyway, is that we take some of those spaces now and prohibit them from being parked in. But I think we have to let supply and demand control that. And we don't, you don't, city council members don't want to see us fail. So we need to have at least a reasonable amount of parking. And again, you could discuss that all day long. But when I get very nervous when we get below 1 per unit. In downtown Cincinnati, a project, 62 units, has 0 parking, but there are 3 parking fields within a block and a half of that. So it's working, but it makes me nervous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think for the retail, restaurant, brewery to be successful in Wedgwood, Houston, they have to have some baseline parking. It's not going to be everyone that takes an Uber or walks to this brewery. And as he said, he's got to have some parking for the bedroom units. So I disagree with Councilman Sledge. I think this is a good project. My last question to Mr. Henry is the garage going to be screened on all sides so that you don't notice that it's a garage? Patrick?
Yes, we'll screen the garage, and we're open to a condition which requires that from the Planning Commission.
And is the garage open to the public and not gated?
Will we have public parking?
No.
Okay.
So you won't have public parking, so how will the restaurant patrons park if it's not open to the public?
Well, that's one of the issues in terms of overall parking requirements. We want to try to provide enough parking for the residents so that there is street parking for people that are either visiting the multifamily or going to one of the commercial establishments. We think this is going to be a great walkable neighborhood, but not all of that happens overnight, and that's why I would generally, argue that the parking that we've proposed is what we need to serve the residents in the building. At the same time, the commercial venues will be able to utilize that neighborhood parking because we've taken care of our residents by putting them in our garage. That's our thinking anyway.
So is there a way for you to make a portion of this parking open to the public that will frequent the...
We could do that, sure. Yeah. And I guess one of the things related to that, and we always see this when we have mixed-use development, is do the parking uses coordinate? So, for example, when I have an office building attached to a multifamily building, most of those office workers are leaving. Plenty of apartment residents are coming in. So yes, we could do that. We're happy to have that discussion. We want to make sure it works because, as I said, we don't want to fail. You don't want us to fail.
So I would recommend to staff that we add a condition to make a percentage of these parking spaces open to the public. What that percentage is, I'm going to defer to you all. I don't know the right number, but we need some baseline percentage, especially for if the brewery is going to have 20 employees, for example, they need to be able to park in the garage and not take up patron parking on the street. So if you all will consider that, I'd like to move approval of staff's recommendation with the condition that we make a percentage of the parking spaces open to the public, and we'll defer to staff's latitude on what that percentage is.
Okay, and may I also clarify a second point that you put together? Lisa, do we feel that the conditions with respect to screening the garage, it's clear that there was an expression of interest and a commitment. I want to make sure that the conditions and or the SP plan adequately addresses that.
Yes, and that was something that we worked on during the review of the project. This has been something that staff has been reviewing for quite some time, and I think it's lost at least one level. It's come down in height, and we've worked with them on the architecture, and so there are standards on the plan already, and they have provided some sample elevations as well that illustrate how the parking will be screened, and so I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, and so then can I get your advice if the commission were to entertain a condition that prior to final site plan approval, that the applicant shall submit a parking plan for a shared parking agreement in consultation with NDOT? Commissioner, would that satisfy?
It would.
Okay, all right, Lisa.
I'll defer to NDOT's expertise on the shared ratio for public.
Okay, because they do keep the parking ratios. I think that's where we would be able to gather that expertise. And so I would recommend then that if the commission, if you were to entertain a motion, it would be to move staff's approval with a condition that prior to final site plan approval, the applicant prepare a parking plan with a shared agreement for residents as well as the commercial uses in consultation with NDOT. Okay, as maybe it's as stated. Thank you.
I'll second that. I did want to, I do think it needs to be thought through because I actually appreciate the applicant making sure that the residents are taken care of first, because he is correct on it. If the resident doesn't have parking and they have to take a parking, that could be for not only for the brewery, but also for the restaurant around the corner or something. So, if I was about to jump in to say I would rather not a percentage, like really thoughtful about how many spaces, but I think what you're saying will get to that thoughtful number, which I think is what we would need, like, you need 10, so anyway, I agree with it though, and that no amendment, but I just wanted to make that statement.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Henley.
Just, I guess, a little matter of privilege, but also I think this is going to be a great opportunity to welcome new neighbors to that neighborhood. Again, everyone loves it. We did mention housing. Council didn't have to slap my wrist this time, so the smirk was made there, of course. But I also I was recognized as chair of our Affordable Housing Task Force, and I'd be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge my co-chair, who's also here today. So Mick Nelson with Nelson Community Partners. I think he's often do that same respect that I get. I just get a little bit more of a platform here in this venue, but wanted to highlight him since he's here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion as stated? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, thank you. Okay, our next item is going to be item 17. we good? It looks like the right number. Sorry. No worries.
Sorry,
no worries.
I was just building up the anticipation.
Yes. All right, it's all yours.
Good. Okay. My name is Amelia Lewis, and I will be presenting item 17 tonight. The request is an SP to permit a daycare center. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. So the site is currently zoned R8, and the proposed zoning is SP. The site is just over an acre located at the northwest intersection of Lebanon Pike and Cottage Lane. The site has frontage along both streets. The site has currently been developed with an existing one-story daycare center. As you can see from the zoning map, the surrounding properties are primarily R8, RS10, and several specific plan districts. The properties along the north side of Lebanon Pike are primarily residential land uses, and the properties along the south side, there's a mix of residential and non-residential land uses. The existing structure on the site is currently being used as a daycare center. This requested SP would permit the continued use of the daycare center for up to 61 individuals. This would be classified as a Class 3 daycare center in the zoning code, which is why the condition was modified to permit up to 75, so the proposed use would be consistent with the zoning code use. The proposed use would take place in the existing structure on the site. The site currently has 2 curb cuts located off of Cottage Lane, which you can see indicated with the yellow arrows on the site. No changes to the existing access are proposed with the plan, and no changes to the existing structure are proposed with the plan. The policy on the site is transition policy, and this policy here is really intended to do literally what it says, is provide a transition from the corridor uses that we would see along Lebanon Pike up against the residential uses of the neighborhood. So we can see that the transition policy in the blue stripes immediately abuts a neighborhood maintenance policy, in addition to having that well-established residential pattern. And so staff finds that the proposed institutional use is consistent with the intent of the transition policy, in addition to the fact that the proposed use is within an existing single-family style structure. It maintains that balance of being able to fit in while still providing an institutional use to the community. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is the applicant here? As you know, you'll have 10 minutes, and
won't take that long.
Hold 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. My name is John Gore. I'm with Barge Cawthon and Associates. As Amelia said, the intent of this SP is just to bring this existing use into alignment with the zoning, and that there's no proposed changes to the building or the site. I think there's some opposition and concern about what would happen if somebody wanted to tear down the building and build a new structure. But the SP plan is very specific that it only allows this use in the same structure, same site. And so if somebody wanted to tear down the building in the future and do something, there would have to be a whole new SP, a whole new process through planning commission, through council. And as Amelia said, the policy, the transitional policy has very specific guidelines to the size and scope of new buildings. So I think it's be a long, drawn-out public process to ever replace this building. So the owner doesn't intend to replace the building. That's why the SP was written with specific notes to leave the use in the building that's there, leave the site alone. So that's the intent, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you very much. We'll open it up. Is there anyone here in support of the project? Oh, yes, we'll hold your 2 minutes for rebuttal. Is there anyone in support? Anyone here in opposition? Please come forward. You'll have 2 minutes, and please state your name and address.
name is William Welch. I live on on June Drive, and I'm nervous. But I don't have any problems with what's been there and what I've heard that they're going to do. I've read the cards. I just don't think we got enough notice between the mailer that went out advising us that there could be a possible planning commission hearing, and then I got the letter last week, and I haven't had time to talk to any of my neighbors, and I guess I should have done that previously because there's a lot of stuff going on out in that area out in Donaldson. And directly behind me, there's a pretty large piece of land that I don't know what the man is doing, but he's getting it ready to do something with it. I don't know, because I hear a lot of conduit bending, and there's people over there working, plumbers and people over there working. I've checked with codes, and there is no permit or anything, so that scares me, because I do know that a lot of people take the liberty to go ahead and do whatever they want to do, and then when they get caught, they try to back up and get things done. But what I would like to do is, one, I'd like to have a little bit more time, maybe 30 days or so I could talk to I live less than 100 yards away. I'm trying to look at all y'all. So anyway, I'd just like a little bit more time to talk to my neighbors and see if they're in favor of this or what's going on, because the man that has a big piece of property, he has no contact with anybody. He does not, at least with anybody that I know of. And I'd just like to have a little bit more time to get this ready. And also, I'd like to say that the SP that's directly across the street that was approved last year, as far as I can tell, nothing has been done with that property. It may have that I can't see, but I go by there 2 or 3 times a day, and I live directly across the street, and that's my concern, is owners getting these pieces of property rezoned, and then in their mind, like I said, taking the liberty to maybe vary outside that old saying. Is that it? Okay.
It's your 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'd appreciate if you.
Thanks for coming down.
Do I sit down here?
Yes. Yes, please. Anyone else speaking in opposition? If not, the applicant, if you would like to take your two minutes of rebuttal.
Thank you. We appreciate Mr. Welch's concerns. We've got about a 2-month process still to go through council before we get to the second hearing. So Councilman Syracuse communicates very well with his constituents, and we'd be glad to have a public meeting or a meeting to answer any questions in the 2 months. We have a whole nother round of cards and notices will go out before we go to council. So I think we've got plenty of time to communicate if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Syracuse, do you want to come back? Thank you for waiting with us.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I appreciate my neighbor and friend William being here. These aren't just my constituents. This is my neighborhood also. I live just 2 streets down. I think you heard from Mr. Gore that the property isn't going anywhere, the building's not going anywhere, and that the SP was written specifically as an SP to ensure that if it were to be torn down, that they would have to put it back. As far as the SP across the street, that's an economics issue, but that is an SP across the street also. So if whatever new owner comes across, as you all know, would have to do exactly as is legislated in that SP. As far as a community meeting, I did have a community meeting with my own neighbors, and it was really well accepted. So we did have a really well attended community meeting. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing. And Commissioner Blackshear, can I start with you?
So the councilman talked about the meeting process. If our staff could talk about just the notice process and how the notices go out and how they will go out for the council meeting.
Certainly. So for any application that we receive that we know has a public hearing, a postcard is mailed within, I think, 9 days of receipt of the application, indicating that we have received an application. It doesn't give any dates. It just lets you know that something has been filed. And then we do mail notice of these public hearings, and those notices go out 10 days in advance of this hearing. There's also signs that are posted on the property. as well for this public hearing. So all of those are requirements are per your rules and procedures. There is a statutory required public hearing at the council level. And so if this were to receive approval tonight, it would be introduced, it would be filed for introduction at the October 4th Planning Commission meeting. And then that would be for public hearing on November 1st. The requirement for notification at the council level is 21 days in advance. And so 21 days prior to that public hearing, if it was to, be approved and introduced on this timeline, 21 days prior, there would be another notification by sign as well as mailed notice. Those notices go to properties within 1,000 feet of the boundary of the property that's requested for rezoning.
That's really helpful, and hopefully the neighbor heard about the council meeting that's upcoming and those dates, and then obviously to look out for the notice on that if this were to move forward. Sounds like there's a lot of stuff going on in the area, and and there may be more communication that can be had about what's going on. But it sounds like this particular SP is probably pretty innocuous and it's not changing anything and it won't allow anything else to be changed because the SP is so specific. So I would be in favor of approving this with the conditions that have been added by staff. And then obviously we will continue to follow our rules regarding notice, and obviously council will as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I would like to plug in one more thing because Metro government and particularly planning department, planning staff does really great job on transparency. One of which is a tool called Development Tracker. So as soon as application comes in, staff enter all the information into a website called Development Tracker. So I encourage every single citizen and neighbor to check those Metro website, and so you will see what will come to your neighbors and in what stage, new application, in planning stage, in council stage, and it will have all the document and contact information. So I know we do have try to do a great job, try to notify neighbors, but sometimes maybe postcard, even though it was required, may not arrive on time. So sometimes we try to do great communication, but some may not reach on time. But for prevent those, we strive to kind of spread the information. So I would like everybody to check on those great wealth of information on the Metro website. So having said that, this SP is to me it's very straightforward, just because of the recent legislation and code update on in regards to daycare definition. So nothing will change. The usage will remain the same. So I'm in support of the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Councilmember Withers?
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank the neighbor for coming out. I'm trying to look at the maps for that area and see if I can identify specifically what might be going on, but I know Councilmember Syracuse could identify that for you. It looks like sort of at the terminus of June Drive, kind of across the street from this, there is like an adaptive reuse, and then there's a planned unit development, and then further out, June Drive kind of goes toward the river. There's another planned unit development in that area. It looks like it's been in place for a long time, and I'm not sure the status of their permitting. They do appear, just by looking at the shapes of them, to be heavily multifamily, and that's a great thing because we need housing. But to go with that housing, we also need childcare and daycare uses. So I think this is a very appropriate use for an emerging residential area, as well as for a transitional policy area. So I think this is a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Henley?
First thing, I want to thank the community member for coming out and voicing concerns. I do appreciate that. It's always good to make all of us aware and our larger community aware of that. And thanks to the council member Syracuse for staying. I think our council members are here and shine light on these. It's very helpful for us during our deliberation. But with that being said, I don't have much to add from other commissioners and the council member. So I'm in favor of staff's recommendation.
Commissioner Clifton?
Thank you. So this is currently a daycare center?
Yes, that's correct.
Allows the same number?
So today, I believe it currently permits up to 50, and the request was to go from 61, or from 50 to 61. Due to the way that the zoning code classifies it, it breaks down the number of children. So I believe 51 to 75 are in the same grouping. So if you have 61, it's the same, essentially, category as being up to 75.
So it's a legal use now?
Yes. So I went back and pulled the site history. It looks like it originally received a conditional use permit from the BZA in 1987 and has been operating consistently since then, with some requests to increase the number of kids throughout the years.
Okay. And if it were to be destroyed by a tornado, then what is the remedy, since we seem to be putting a condition on that it's this very structure forever?
Sure. So then that would fall under the non-conforming. If it was to be destroyed and the SP essentially says that this is the building that's permitted, then it's likely that it would be considered non-conforming and they could rebuild. They would have to meet current codes, though.
Okay. Which is not the impression I got from the earlier discussion. I mean, it makes sense. I do think childcare is needed in our neighborhoods, and not just in high intensity areas, but other areas. So I don't have a problem with this, but I just wanted to ask those questions. And this is bewildering to neighborhoods, I know, to have a lot of change happening at once when nothing's happened for a long time in terms of change. So it's why we have this process, to make sure we're being careful and that neighbors and citizens have a chance to make their views known. So thank you very much for coming down for this. But I think it is a reasonable plan, and I think I'll support staff recommendation.
No comments.
Commissioner Tibbs?
Make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
It's a proper motion. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. The next item is item 18.
This is item 18. This is 6111 Calvin Avenue, SP. This is a request to permit a surface parking lot. Staff is recommending disapproval. As you see, the property is surrounded by an office building to the west, a surface parking lot to the south, a used car lot to the north, and two-family home to the east. The existing zoning on the property is 1 and 2 family residential. This is the proposed SP. It calls for 22 parking spaces. The existing zoning behind it also includes, or to the south, includes a parking lot. It's not part of the SP, but it will be. They will be doing work and enhancing that with the project. This is in the West Nashville Community Plan. The policy is suburban neighborhood evolving. This is a residential policy, so it does not support parking for commercial use. I would also remind you, I think the council member discussed this, that there was a policy amendment that was reviewed last year and was disapproved by the Planning Commission. And in conclusion, staff recommends disapproval as it's not consistent with the residential policy that applies to the site.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this one. Is the applicant here?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We understand staff's comments on this and their position, but we appreciate the opportunity to speak to the commission about this. Yes, we were here in March of this year, and at that time we were interested in a rezoning to be able to build, expand a parking lot to this vacant parcel. We discussed a little bit previously that Zander Insurance has been here. They own this parcel and they'd like to expand their parking. They need some additional parking. They've explored other solutions such as leasing parking across Charlotte, but that has proven to be somewhat dangerous, having to have employees cross Charlotte to the parking lot that they leased. When we came through before, we had chosen OR20 because it seemed like a reasonable zoning and it matched some of the other zonings around this parcel. But we heard two main concerns from the neighbors after we spoke to them during that meeting. The first one is that the neighbors specifically do not want a connection to Cowan Avenue. That's kind of the street, it's a dead-end street at the top of the page that you see there. Zander has always been fine with that condition and supports that condition, but we couldn't really figure out how to, with a base zoning, we couldn't figure out really how to make sure that condition was followed with, a deed restriction or something like that. So the first thing that seemed like a good reason to go to an SP is to be able to put that specific condition in the SP. The other thing we heard from the neighbors is just when you go with the base zoning, you don't have a plan to see, so they couldn't really envision what the plan would look like. So we understood that by going with an SP, then the council member and the neighbors and everybody involved could see what we were proposing. So what you see in this shot that's on the screen is the parking lot on kind of the top side is the new proposed parking lot. The parking lot on the bottom side, there's existing parking there, but we understand we've got the residential kind of on the right side of the page. So what we've also done, in addition to, of course, bringing the new parking lot up into code, up to current landscape codes, we've gone back to the existing parking lot and added buffers, added landscape islands, and that sort of thing to make sure that the existing parking that's there is up to code. So, like I say, we've worked on a plan that we think is transparent and everybody can see what's going on. We've reached out to the neighborhood group. They were having some meetings earlier this summer that we answered a couple questions back and forth, but we felt like we answered all the questions that were given to us. So, like I say, we appreciate your time. I'd be glad to answer any questions for the commission. We'd ask for your approval. Thank you.
I realize I didn't get your name and address.
John Gore, Artisan.
Great, thanks. Okay, is there anyone here in support of this item? Anyone speaking in opposition? If you'll come forward, you'll give your name and address, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Yes, I'm Bernard Pickney, 4604 Dakota Avenue, and my wife and I own property in the neighborhood. We are directly across Neighborly Avenue from Zander Insurance Company, and we own more property acreage-wise than they do. And we've owned property for like 35 years up there. And it's true, like the council lady said, I guess my wife and I are the two people that aren't residents up there, but we care about the neighborhood. I lived in the neighborhood back in the 70s. But we had a neighborhood meeting, the Hillwood Summit neighborhood, and I would say we had a real good representation, maybe 25 to 30 people, which is a pretty good percentage of the people up there. And there was zero support for this zone change. And we want to keep the neighborhood R6. We don't want any encroachment from businesses wanting to expand into the neighborhood and change zoning. It's just an example of bad zoning. And it just, there's no support for it from the neighborhood. The staff recommends disapproval, and, I just think it's a bad deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Jeremiah Wooten, 1828 Wild Oaks Court. In my opinion, there's already entirely too much parking at the neighborhood business neighboring business this new parking lot is intended to serve. This location has access to a frequent transit route with 15-minute daytime frequency, but the applicant hasn't constructed sidewalks even on their frontage to get to and from that bus stop. The location fronts bike lanes on Charlotte Pike, but the applicant has not placed a single bike rack on the property, according to satellite or street view. So while the property owner may claim they don't have enough parking on the site to accommodate their workforce, they haven't taken even a little step to provide access for anyone not inside a single occupancy vehicle. This is one of those rare occasions where the city has actually provided many more multimodal options to this site, while the applicant insists on limiting access to strictly single occupancy vehicles. In fact, I did a little calculation for the cost of purchasing this property and building the parking lot. The applicant could construct sidewalks all the way down to the nearest bus stop, about 500 feet minus the width of a couple half dozen driveways, provide bus passes to all their employees for a year, install 22 bike racks instead of 22 parking spaces, and still have money left over. So financially, it doesn't even make sense for them as a business. And clearly the commission doesn't support this land use either, because you already disapproved the policy amendment that would have supported a rezoning for a parking lot. I'm honestly rather shocked that the applicant is even trying to push this forward after you have already voted against this, and I encourage you to disapprove the request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition? Okay.
Do we represent organization? We get 5 minutes instead of 2, or how's that work?
Which organization are you representing?
Hillwood Summit Neighborhood Association.
Yes, then you will have 5 minutes.
Awesome.
Normally, I think that's done in writing beforehand, but we'll grant you that today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So start with your name and address, and you'll have the 5 minutes.
My name is Will Stout. I live at 6107 Cowden, the lot adjacently to the east of this. Can we go to the overhead Google Earth view? First, just to deal with I reached out to Councilmember Roberts. I never got a response. To deal with some issues here, 5 years ago, this neighborhood was kind of owned by developers. We had 37 people at our meeting this month. 5 of them were developers, including Bernard, who doesn't live here, but 3 of those 5 do live in the neighborhood. So I don't think that's a correct interpretation of the neighborhood association. As you can see, it's pretty residential. Earlier, this was turned down. As you can see, there are houses here that are zoned commercial, so this is a problem where the land use and zoning doesn't really match the reality on the ground. One of those lots, 6104 Cowden, is actually potentially going to come for a down zone from commercial to OR to build 2 townhomes on Cowden Avenue. So we have zoning in the neighborhood going 2 directions, which is, as someone who lives on that street, is pretty frustrating. When this got voted down last time, part of the criticism was the communication between Xander and the neighborhood, and unfortunately that communication did not improve. I gave Xander my personal phone number after that, and I was never reached out to. I did end up with an email from John, but it had to be forwarded to me. And it was very clear that I was the owner who lived next door. I would assume, if you're trying to get something through here, you would probably want to reach out to your neighbor to make sure they were okay with it. I did express some concerns about various things to John, including, this is a 12-foot drop from my house. You can see how close my house is to the boundary, too. This is a 12-foot drop, according to John, from my house to the other end of the empty lot, so that's a huge drop. Expressed concern. I asked if there was a plan for lighting. I was told there aren't any plans, but, with zoning, with ordinances, it wouldn't be a problem, which wasn't really satisfactory to me. Xander already has floodlights that point towards my house, so that's frustrating. And, as far as them addressing current issues for the southern parking lot they already have, number one, that parking lot is almost never full. Corey Edwards, who works for y'all, was there on several occasions and expressed dismay of how empty that lot was, and they're still asking for more parking. Expanding from 119 spots, adding 22 spots. I'm okay with them, and then this is voices from the neighborhood too. We're okay with them adding height to existing parking, but it just doesn't seem to be a great use for Charlotte. As Charlotte Pike becomes more dense, adding surface lots, especially when they're empty commercial lots 2 blocks to the east, it's frustrating to lose a residential lot. Originally, there was 2 dwelling places on this lot, and they got torn down. I imagine developers going to build something, and they got sold to Xander. And, that's something the neighbors were frustrated with, prices in Nashville going up and, having houses destroyed in the neighborhood is frustrating. And then as far as this lot to the south, John mentioned that, they brought this lot in accordance with current regulations. That was only after we asked them to cut brush because it was destroying the homeowners at 6106 Neighborly's fence. Their fence is literally like at a 15 to 20 degree angle because the brush from Xander kind of destroyed it. So as someone who lives next door and as the neighborhood association, we don't really want encroachment of bad neighbors. So, that's, they're going to have to pay to get their fence fixed. So that's frustrating. We have a street that's kind of evolving, and as you can see, the whole northern part of that street's zone commercial, but as you can see on the picture, it's not really commercial. So that's frustrating. And then I'm just still frustrated by the lack of communication. I sent an email to John. I felt like my concerns were it was like the bare minimum that could be done to say, hey, I talked to the neighborhood association. And I'm also frustrated with Councilmember Roberts, who I emailed her Tuesday and never got, as of this morning, I did not get a response. So I'm kind of frustrated by lack of communication. But with that, I'll concede the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else speaking in opposition? Does the applicant want to use your 2 minutes for rebuttal?
Sure. Just quickly, we appreciate everybody's comments. I'll speak to a couple things. I do understand the concerns about commercial not encroaching into the neighborhood. I think the point here is that the parcel we're talking about is got a CS parcel on one side and an OR20 on one side, so it's kind of hemmed in and can't really, I don't think this would start an encroachment into the neighborhood. And then the second point to the zoning, kind of having commercial zoning next to residential zoning, we do recognize that. That's the purpose of the buffer. The zoning ordinance, speaks to having buffers when you have 2 different properties with different uses. So that's the purpose of the B5 buffer that we're proposing. And there is a large grade drop, but to be honest, we thought that was kind of an asset because the parking lot's going to be lower than the adjacent residential. So we felt like as far as headlights and things like that, it was nicer to have the proposed parking lot down below the residential. So we appreciate everybody's comments and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Haynes, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I think this is fairly straightforward. I think staff's done a very good job of the analysis. I would challenge staff and this commission that as employers are trying to incent and induce and motivate their employees to come back to the office, and not necessarily work from home, and it's clearly Xander's trying to do this here, that we may have these challenges in other areas of the city to balance versus forcing Xander to potentially have to relocate because there's not enough parking. But in this particular case, I think staff's made a very good analysis, and I'm going to support staff's recommendation.
Commissioner Clifton.
I can't add anything to that. I think the staff's recommendation is correct.
Commissioner Henley?
I'm inclined to agree with my fellow commissioners. I do commend Lisa's been waiting to get me with that all night. I think I do want to commend the efforts of the applicant. It does seem like there were a lot of efforts made to make some concessions and to collaborate. But I think there's always a lesson to be learned, and I think being neighborly goes a long way in communicating. I do think that Commissioner Haynes is absolutely right. This won't be the last time we see this. It's going to come in force in the coming months.
Thank you. Councilman Withers?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Could I maybe have a question for staff? Because I remember this when it came before us the last time. I think the fact that there is commercial and, in fact, kind of parking lots on 3 sides of this parcel makes it a unique circumstance in that filling in that gap could arguably not be commercial encroachment deeper into the neighborhood. It's just filling in kind of a donut hole with a use that is similar or identical to everything that surrounds it on the other 3 sides. My recollection from the last time this was before us, is that there was a policy change amendment that was proposed. Is there information about why that was maybe not reconsidered this time along with this application?
So the Planning Commission disapproved the policy change at the last request, and I'm actually trying to pull up that staff report quickly so I can read the minutes. But it was disapproved, and so the assumption was likely that they weren't going to get a different response. You all had already taken an action on a policy amendment. I'm trying to, hold on just a second, if you can give me a moment, and
perhaps if we could continue, Lisa can fill in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I remember the discussion, but I guess is the fact that the policy change was not considered that time, does that mean that a policy change could never be considered again, even with a revised application? Is that the case? Or?
I mean, I think that, so the policy consideration, or community plan amendments are, of course, community-driven, and there are community meetings that are involved. And when we, as a staff, went out as part of that application, there was opposition from the community in regards to changing the community plan or changing the policy. So I think that we're still hearing some of that same opposition, so I'm not sure that there would be a sort of change in analysis. We, of course, didn't do the analysis again because it had been turned down and there wasn't a new application to reconsider the policy.
Lisa, when was that policy considered? Do you know? It's still pulling up.
January 13th of this year. So it was not.
So to your question, I think there's just sort of a reasonability standard. I mean, obviously, if there was some amount of time, I would say, several years, then obviously we would look at how an area has evolved and go, certainly it's not fixed in stone, but I think when it's been done within a fairly recent past, however we want to define that, within a matter of months or limited number of years, then we would probably not want to continue to bring a policy change before this body if it had already weighed in.
I understand, and that's helpful. I just wanted to kind of talk through that process a little bit. If the district council member were inclined to bring a disapproved bill, I know this is an SP, what would that look like under this scenario?
Certainly. So it would be the same process as a process of any other disapproved bill. So there is a rule at the council related to SPs being, the SPs cannot be introduced at council without a recommendation. It will have a recommendation. It may not be, depending on what you all decide, a positive recommendation. In that case, they would just follow the normal process and would require 27 votes at the council level.
Okay, well, thank you.
I do have the report if you wanted any details on it, but staff was in a position of recommending disapproval, and the Planning Commission agreed with staff's analysis at that time.
Okay, well, thank you. All that's helpful. And like I said, I just wanted to walk through that process again, since this is, I think, by all accounts, a heavily transitional area, and certainly even as the neighbors have spoken about, the characteristics on the ground on some of those streets are, I would describe as transitional. So that's helpful. I mean, for me, I think that the policy implication, we're not going to have a policy change probably recommended this time, so it would not be found to meet policy, but it's one of those where if the council member were able to continue conversations with the community and decided to bring it to council, regardless of the policy recommendation, if there were support in the community, it could make sense, I think, under some of the unique circumstances that this might be an appropriate compromise that doesn't just blanket open the parcel up to random commercial uses, but at least has a better site plan even than last time. So based on that, I'm willing to support the staff recommendation, but I look forward to any future discussion on this that my colleague might bring.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson, or Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do remember this discussion, and the reason I think we disapprove the policy change as well as zone change is because this does not have access to Charlotte. Only access is neighborhood residential street. So I am still in support of staff recommendation of disapprove. One thing I do appreciate this plan is considerate of landscaping buffer. And I think the plan does not allow access from residential Cohen Street. So that is one improvement I can see this proposal. However, neighbor expressed their opposition, and this is up and coming residential zoning, and introducing commercial usage into the middle of the residential zoning does not make any sense, considering no access to a major Charlotte corridor. And I do understand applicant wants to expand the parking, but sometimes you don't get everything they want. And also, since we are moving into more mass transit option, and we are striving, introducing MDOT and walkability and shared ride and so forth, and I think some employees are moving into employees benefit, such as providing, bus pass, or such as, having other benefit to provide to not encouraging, single car coming to the workplace. But that is outside of our purview. But just kind of something to think about. But anyway, I think the staff recommendation and staff analysis is spot on, so I'm in support of staff recommendation.
Commissioner Blackshear?
No further comment.
Okay. Commissioner Tibbs?
No further comment. I'll make a motion. Wait a minute.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Any other discussion? So that's a motion to approve staff's recommendation of a disapproval of this item. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Well, I was wondering, we have three items to go, and I think our chairman normally gives us a break right around now. So do you guys want to do one more item, or do people need a break now? All right. You guys want to do one more? Let's move on to item 19.
I'm Dustin Shane, staff planner. Item 19 is 1622 Roselle Parks Boulevard, SP. This is a request to permit 95 multifamily residential units at the corner of Roselle Parks and Garfield. Our recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Existing zoning on the site is OR 20, and the proposed zoning is a regulatory SP. The policy is T4 Urban Neighborhood Evolving. So this is a regulatory SP with MUGA as a base zoning. The base zoning will be modified slightly by having the height capped at 6 stories and 90 feet. Short-term rentals will be prohibited, and then also our standard architecture comments have been added to the SP. Otherwise, we do judge this base zoning appropriate for this location. The goals of T4 Neighborhood Evolving involve greater housing choice and improved connectivity. This is another immediate need multimodal corridor. So these corridors have been targeted for more intensity and things that can support more intense transit use. So MUGA is kind of more intense than what's usual for this policy, but in our judgment, this site is unique, being so close to downtown and being on a multimodal corridor like that. So our recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this one. Is the applicant here? Hello, Mr. Nelson. You'll have 10 minutes and start with your name and address. You can hold 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Great.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here. I'm Mick Nelson from Nelson Community Partners. I'm working as the co-developer with Inspiritus, who is will be shortly the owner of the property. They will be receiving it from their related organization, which is the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And they are the sort of social service arm. And my colleague Janet, who's right here, will be speaking some of our opening remarks here as well. Those of you, Commissioner Henley mentioned that I was also involved with the mayor's housing task force, and you know about my passion for housing. And we think this is a specifically wonderful opportunity for the city. This is going to be senior housing, focused on seniors. And we were fortunate enough to receive funding from the Barnes Fund. And our intention here is to make this housing available for folks who, ideally have resided in the neighborhood for a really long time and maybe aging out of their place, maybe moving on, maybe their home isn't the right fit for them anymore. They can stay in the neighborhood, preserve the fabric, what's been there for 20, 30 years, helping to make it the great place that it is, and be able to stay there as well. And we provide this other housing option, which currently is not available. There's a variety of different housing options in the area. Senior affordable housing is not one of them. This is a project that's been in the works for a long time. We made our Barnes Fund application in last fall. We were fortunate to receive approval from City Council this spring. And we have been working with the council member and the neighborhood for a number of years preceding that. So we think it's a great spot for someone who does a lot of work in affordable housing, being able to have such a great location close to downtown, so full of amenities, with a bus stop on this multimodal corridor right across the street, is just an incredible thing that my firm and myself are incredibly proud to be associated with that. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Janet to talk about the other portion of this development, which is an expansion of the great work that Inspiritus is already doing there.
Good afternoon. My name is Janet Arning. I'm the Executive Director of Empowerment Services for Inspiritus, and at 1622 Rosa Parks Boulevard, where we operate. Inspiritus is a 501c3 nonprofit. It's closely associated with the Lutheran Church, and it's a combination of Lutheran services in Tennessee and Lutheran services of Georgia. We have operated out of the state of Tennessee since 1927. Our mission is to guide individuals and families on a path from surviving to thriving. And we empower those whose lives have been disrupted to discover their strengths and resilience, accompanying them as they become vibrant contributors to their community. For years, we've operated out of this site at St. Paul's Lutheran Church to provide these crucial services. But the existing church no longer meets our needs. We recognize this, and we want to breathe new life into this campus by providing affordable housing and increasing our care capacity. Not only will we continue to operate our social, educational, and community services out of the ground floor of this new development, our service capacity will increase as we carve out 8,000 square feet on the base floor for these services, which include a client choice food pantry operated in conjunction and in partnership with Second Harvest Food Bank. A Healthy Gardens program where we teach families in public and subsidized housing to grow their own fresh vegetables. Our Building Healthy Families program is a weekly support group for women in the community. And our Thrive Studios is a mobile art therapy program for at-risk youth. As you saw by the number of signatures that we secured, this project has the blessing of many in the Cheatham neighborhood who rely on our services. For the last 12 years, I've been walking with families in that neighborhood. I've walked with Gloria as she went from a member of our women's group to gaining leadership skills and confidence to serve as the Cheatham Neighborhood Association president, and now as an employee of Inspiritus who runs our food pantry. I have walked and assisted, and I've vowed not to quit until my friend Barbara has a place to call home. For 12 years, she stayed with friends, slept on couches, squeezed in one-room efficiencies with families, We've helped her submit many housing applications, and yet she's never heard a single one about them. Not on a waiting list, not one email, not one phone call, not one text. Not hope of finding her own place, and yet she still keeps hoping. These are real families, real people, real lives that are affected by the choices we make as a city, and it severely affects our low-income and elderly neighbors in North Nashville. Nashvillians, all of us, want to continue to make this city livable and affordable for those who call Nashville home, especially for those of us who are getting older, and our days of making income are farther behind us than ahead of us. So it'll take Inspiritus, it'll take the city, it'll take other organizations to make this happen. So we respectfully request that you approve this development so we can continue to serve our neighbors in need, whose voices are often silent, who sometimes find themselves in need of food, a place to gather for support, in need of essentials like toilet paper and soap and detergent, or just a listening ear. Please help us continue to serve our neighbors and help them go from surviving to thriving. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and we'll go ahead and reserve 2 minutes for your rebuttal. Is there anyone speaking in support of this project?
Yes.
Okay. Please feel free to come forward and state your name and address. You'll have 2 minutes.
My name is Samuel Davis, and I live at 1558 Delta Avenue. That's out North Nashville in Cheatham Apartments. And I've been there about 8 years, and I love Miss Jen over here. She's taught us how to garden. We done been to gardening. I was the president over there. I mean, it was a blessing to meet her. Like I said, the housing is a blessing. We got the Titans, we got the Predators, and we got the Pro Soccer. We need affordable housing. And that'll make Nashville complete, I believe, because there's so many people looking at the budget and the way, inflation is just so high. Food is so high. You're trying to make it. Everybody's trying to make it. It's a beautiful city. I love it. I'm not from Nashville, but I love Nashville. I think that's something we need is affordable housing for everybody to live so we all can be as one. We're all the taxpayers. We're all trying to live as one in one unit. And I think we can do it if we just get together and say we can pass this. We need to pass it. And I know we can do it. I'm sure y'all tired of looking at homelessness, and I'm tired of it too. And I want to see somebody in a home, a beautiful home that called theirs, and I would just love to see it happen. And I know we can make it happen. This is Nashville. Remember, it's in Nashville, volunteer state, and we can do it. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Jeremiah Wooten, 1828 Wild Oaks Court. I know you all received some public comments through email opposed to this item, and I thought they were rather comedic. Many of these comments discuss concerns about crime and policing, which of course aren't relevant to a rezoning request, as well as just some generally disparaging statements against people who are low income. One comment a neighbor emailed even referred to unhoused and low income people as patients, as if there's something medically wrong with an individual who makes less money than she does. In 2020, my first year M&PS teacher salary would have qualified me as low income, which is defined as 80% of AMI, the area median income. Without the master's degree I got in 2021, I would have still qualified as low income last year and likely would still qualify this year, but I couldn't quickly locate the 2022 AMI figures. Statistically speaking, 50% of people make less than the median income. That's a fact. And roughly 30 to 40% make less than 80% of the median income, the threshold for low income. So when these individuals share their concerns about low income people, they're sharing concerns of about 4 out of 10 Nashville neighbors. And I can't imagine a life where I'm scared of 4 out of 10 people I might come across. It must be truly terrifying for these individuals to just live their life, walk their dogs, walk their neighborhood. They must be going about their lives scared about anyone they may come across. I normally wouldn't speak on an item, but I just thought the opposition was truly outrageous. And while I know commissioners love to tell the neighbors that you all hear and appreciate their concerns, these individuals' concerns to much needed affordable housing for seniors because of traffic and crime that they bring was just quite hilarious to me, no matter how they try to code their racist language. Thank you.
Anybody else speaking in support of this project?
My name is Denny Black. I live at 1418 9th Avenue North. I've been living in this community 22 years. I've been with Inspiritus 12 years, 11 and a half, 12 years. There is a need. This is not nothing we just want just to keep up with everybody and everything else, because y'all know the inflation of gas and the high price of food, plus the past pandemic and the tornado that hit out in North Nashville. And we being low-income people, I'm telling you, this company has kept that community head above water. It's kept us really, but a lot of people from going hungry. And this is not something that we just want. There is a serious need, especially for low income and for the food bank. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Gloria Oliver. I live at 1536 Delta Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee, North Memphis. Ms. Anderson was talking about me. I'm the president of the Residential Association, and I've been with in spiritual and Lutheran for 12 years, and I see the changes that we done made with what we got, and I would really love for us to better, make it better, because we've come a long way from when we started, and I think we can do better and make it better. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else speaking in support? Hi.
Good evening. I'm John Moeller, 1628 Rosa Parks Boulevard, 37208. I'm the president and CEO of Inspiritus, and I am really honored to be in the presence of these residents of Cheatham Place and Salem Town. And I'm inspired by their stories and their heroism as people and where they've come from and how they speak on behalf of those who have a smaller voice. I really feel so very strongly that this is a project that will bring much needed senior housing, senior affordable housing, to a community where people are increasingly finding it difficult to stay as growth comes around them. And we want people in this city to be able to stay where they've built relationships and to thrive. And that's what Inspiritus does. The services of Inspiritus are fortunate to be growing and to be doing more and to have a facility on site that serves the residents who live upstairs, but also serves those who live across the street and behind us, will just be wonderful. And so we're looking forward to an opportunity to expand and to really help build a sense of community for those who are in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else speaking in support? Okay. Anyone speaking in opposition?
Hi, my name's Emily Forsyth. I live at 1400 Rosa Parks, and I'm nervous, so I'm just going to read this. So thank you all for your time. This job can be a grind, so I really appreciate it. I'm on the HOA, so I understand just a little bit what you guys go through. Just to be clear, I'm not against the development whatsoever. I'm just against the high count that this unit is going to be bringing in. I've lived in the community for a few years, and I've seen it grow. The community just doesn't have the bandwidth to ingest yet another large complex. Parking is a nightmare. It's come up a lot tonight. Street congestion is at an all-time high. The bars and restaurants are packed. And weekly, I see cars along Rosa Parks getting sideswiped, and it's quite dangerous. More importantly, the emergency services in this area, Salem Town and Germantown, are just overtaxed. Last week, I personally had an emergency, and it took 45 minutes for the cops to come to me, and I would hate for anyone else to experience that. Kroger on that Rosa Parks fields over 250 calls a year. It's just not sustainable. The area can't keep up. We need to address the modern needs of the next generation who's living there, and I do agree with affordable housing, but please just consider that 95 unit count is just way too high. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Evan Gracie. I live at 1314 7th Avenue North. To reiterate what Emily just spoke on, I'm not against affordable housing in the neighborhood or the development as a whole. I do, however, agree with the congestion and the tax on the infrastructure of the community, as well as the parking and street parking associated with. Just to note, Randy Rogers' development that just opened this year, in the past couple months, it does have HUD subsidized affordable housing. 50 of the 98 units, I believe, 25 are medium, and the other 23 are market rate. The development in the community counts are roughly this year moving forward 330 additional units, 329, 16, 100. That's a net 775. The ongoing construction of the women's shelter adjacent to this proposal brings another 348 beds to the neighborhood. Parking needs for those are capped at 4 levels for parking structures with all of the existing builds that have gone on that I just mentioned. With that, the parking required for this and the women's shelter does not account for all those additional beds. Pardon me, I'm also looking at my notes. I do also believe the general office requirements, 300 square feet, is equal to 1 parking spot per Davidson County, should be upheld for these type of areas in these neighborhoods. Typically, it is at 500 square foot, but it should also be allocated to per bed, not just per domicile. And again, just the stress on the existing infrastructure is worth looking at and investigating. There is an extreme need for parking. My car has been hit. I waited in the parking lot at the grocery store for an hour's time before I got attention. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition?
Hi, my name is Christine Kiesling. I live at 706 Buchanan Street. I agree with all of the comments thus far. I'm absolutely in favor. I come from New York City, in favor of housing absolutely necessary. However, I do agree that we have a large density problem already of rentals with the all the new buildings that have gone up. The Women's Rescue Mission is growing. I live right literally behind the Rescue Mission, completely in favor of all of the work and very respectful of the work that the church has done. I was part of the community during the tornado, and these wonderful people did amazing service for the neighborhood. But I do think that while I do have some questions, if I could, actually. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes here. So I'm interested in who would be managing the project, not just in terms of the build, but in terms of long-term, ensuring that the property stays kept up as it's meant to, as the community continues to grow and build, and that is that it's maintained for the long term, not just for the short term, as property values continue to increase, and that there's proper care, basically, for in the years to come. Our infrastructure is bursting at the seams, as these neighbors already have mentioned. The adding of the units and the number of the units I'm in agreement with is too many, and it's adding to the already congested area of Rosa Parks and that thoroughfare as well. The traffic is becoming insane, and frankly, you know, that property is beautiful, and there is no opportunity for job creation in that area as well. So as the housing goes up and the units come in, being on that thoroughfare with the bus access, it would be nice to see some job opportunities in the neighborhood as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition?
My name is Patty Marsh. I'm at 704 Buchanan Street.
I'll be brief because I agree with the mission that they have. I love the fact that they want to bring, added housing and everything. Absolutely, 95 is too much because basically if you look at that intersection that they're wanting to put on less than an acre, to add to it, we have the women's shelter that's going to be tripling in size. We have a huge apartment complex on another corner. On the third corner, we have the Cheatham Place housing, and then this is the corner that and our Garfield Street, there's no infrastructure that can maintain that kind of increase in the amount of people. I don't see how they can do that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else speaking in opposition? If not, then I will give the applicant 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick couple of comments. We've been working with traffic engineers and with NDOT who have looked at the traffic impacts of our particular development, given that it is going to be mostly a senior population, mostly without cars that aren't going to be traveling at peak hours, which is the time that I believe that has the greatest impact on people's travel experience and those types of issues. So that is something we're happy to continue to work with NDOT going forward, and I think that's one of our conditions that we happily accept. But we've looked into it, and what we've been told so far that this type of development is unlikely to have a significant impact on those sort of peak hour trips. So I'm not a traffic engineer, but that's what we've been told from the experts that we've spoken to. The second point I'll make is that in terms of the question about property management going forward, given the resources going into this project, it is going to have a lot more oversight and have to maintain a much higher standard than your typical market rate development. And so the quality of the units and the upkeep across time, there's significant consequences if we're not maintaining the property at a very high standard. So I just thought I'd add those 2 points there, but happy to answer any other questions that you all may have.
Great, thank you. Okay, and the councilman's not here. So I will close the public hearing, and Commissioner Henley, can I get you to start us?
Absolutely. Happy to kick this off. I won't have to express my affinities before this body, but I do think this is a great opportunity for both our land use policy and our built environment to serve the needs of our community. I think obviously we all know the impact of our growing city and the needs of housing, but that also is a great burden on a lot of other services, and so those services need to grow as well. And it just so happens that this community is an area where a lot of those great organizations call home, and so they need to grow along with our city's growth. So I'm happy to support that. And I think it's a great opportunity for our built environment to serve social issues, human dignity issues, and elevate a quality of life. So happy to support staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Commissioner Clifton.
I'll be honored to vote for this. I know this area pretty well and travel it a good bit, and have seen it change over the years in terms of its population from being many different kinds, income groups, to Germantown generally becoming a lot less of that. And this is just a fascinating opportunity, it seems to me. I know that density is a problem, but if it's ever going to be anywhere, it ought to be on Rosa Parks. And I just congratulate folks. I also think that people who came in opposition are by no means wrong to do that. It's obviously different ways of looking at it, and if I lived there, I might have slightly different views. I know that. But this seems like it's just an ideal situation, and it ironically addresses my earlier concern that we really ought to be as focused on affordable housing as we can be, even as we know we're under some limitations. But we're not on this one. Thank you.
Mr. Haynes.
You guys know I've been a critic of density and bonuses by a lot of developers who want to do it just to justify the land price. In this particular situation, we've got a nonprofit trying to provide much needed services on a very small site And in today's construction world, they've got to justify cost as much as anyone, and therefore they need to build 95 units. I think this is much needed. I applaud them for doing this, and this is an area where we need to support the height and the density.
Councilman Withers?
Thank you, Vice Chair, and really thank the applicants for bringing this forward. This is one where I know I had conversations with staff to say, like, how do we go about permitting some commercial or office uses in a residential-only policy, but I think with this institutional use, this is an appropriate way of doing it. I note that the staff recommendation is it's conditioned on this institutional use, so we're not setting a base zone change or something to that extent where someone could just come in later and do a general office building. It really is committed to this social mission of the agency that has worked in the community for a long time and with a lot of success. So I think that is good. I definitely understand the concern of neighbors. It's a little bit frustrating to me going down Rosa Parks. We work so hard as a city to try to have grass and medians and trees and things like that, and sometimes people tend to pull their cars off of the pavement and on kind of damage that green space that we have, which is a little frustrating, but I also understand why. It's not that the lane widths are too narrow on Rosa Parks. It's just a function of driver speed and behavior, and that is an ongoing problem that we have in our city, and this development does not contribute to that. In fact, it does the opposite. It helps keep people out of cars, keep them safe in housing. The intersection there at Garfield, of course, it goes over into Buchanan Street, which is a really emerging area. We've got bike lanes that are coming through that area that I think are really exciting. So I think this contributes to density in a way that will probably have the least possible impact on the neighbor concerns, which are valid, I think, but has the least possible impact on that. Did want to speak, while I have my council member hat on, for a couple of things. For emergency response, that definitely is something we've heard about, and even Councilmember O'Connell has raised that concern about wait times or waiting on responses. Just wanted, as a public service announcement, to say that Councilmember Aaron Evans, who was here a little bit earlier as the chair of our Public Safety Committee, recently held a committee meeting with some of our Metro departments on some of those response time issues. Metro government has been adding staffing positions into the fire department during our last budget in particular, and a little bit this time. We have a large number of vacancies in the police department, but we have a really large cadet class that recently graduated, and we look forward to them coming out and helping out in the community. Metro government also has been partnering with the Mental Health Cooperative for some of the non-police responses to service calls, or to have a trained social worker that works with them on that. So it's a lesser police response to some of those urgent needs, especially when there appear to be mental health needs, which we know is a need in our community. Just wanted to put that out there. Metro government's aware of a lot of these concerns. We're trying to add positions where we can, trying to forge partnerships with nonprofit agencies. I think this is another good example of just that, of working, in this case, with the faith community to add some very much needed services in our community. So all in all, I think this is a really good plan. One thing, if I can just suggest, just maybe selfishly, but for the team, I don't want to go into a lot of detail now, but historic preservation is near and dear to the heart of many people, especially in the Germantown community. I know we don't have renderings of things like this, but I was really interested to read in some of the correspondence that there are some efforts underway to respect and reuse some of the elements of that building. Would love to see that. If you want to send that to letters to us when it comes before council, I'd love to learn more about that. But other than that, I think this is a really exciting proposal, and I'm inclined to support. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank the applicant for their mission and commitment. Really appreciate that. But that's not the reason for us as a planning commission to, approve or disapprove the proposal. So as far as policy and application is concerned, because of the specific location and proposed usage, and I think this height and unit count is appropriate. And so this is near the historic zoning area, so this is a regulatory SP. So as this proposal moving forward, when it comes to design element, I would love for the applicant to consider surrounding historical structure, especially, your outgoing beautiful church. So if you can incorporate those history into the design element, that would be much preferable. So, but with that, I'm in support of the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Commissioner Blackshear?
I don't have too much more to add. I think my fellow commissioners did a great job. The neighborhood is definitely under a lot of transition, and it's been transforming to meet the needs of those who are in the neighborhood, either coming from someplace else and arriving, or the people who already are in the neighborhood. And this is a case of the latter. This is the neighborhood evolving to meet the needs of those who are there and who would like to stay there. So I'm in agreement with staff's analysis. I agree with what my fellow commissioners said, and I would be in support of this item.
Commissioner Tibbs.
I think everything has been covered, especially echo what Commissioner Haynes said earlier. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff recommendation for approval.
Second.
Okay, proper motion and second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we have two more items. Should we take a short break to stand up?
Yeah.
And then we'll reconvene in about 10 minutes.
This is item 26, to request for a zone change at 3104 Meade Avenue and 436 Patterson Street. The request is a rezone from single family to 1 and 2 family. The property is located at the northeast corner. The northeast corner of Patterson Street and Meade Avenue. Nolensville Pike is close proximity to the site to the east. Staff is recommending disapproval of the requested R8, but approval of the R8A. The existing zoning is single-family residential that permit one house per lot. The proposed two-family zoning district would permit 2 units on a lot, so a net of 2 units. This is in the South Nashville Community Plan. The policy is neighborhood maintenance. It's intended to maintain the area, the character of the general area it is applied. Staff finds that the R8A district would be in keeping with the area. This area contains a variety of housing types. There's an alley behind the property, which would allow for access to that alley. With the alternative zoning district, it would require that they have access to that alley. And it's also its proximity to Nolensville Pike, which is a major arterial. Since the policy is urban and transect, then again, we're saying that we think R8A is the appropriate zoning. In conclusion, staff is recommending disapproval of the R8 and approval of the R8A.
Thank you. We will go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is the applicant here?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission, members of the staff. My name is John Michael. I'm an attorney with the Thompson Burton Law Firm here in Nashville, and I represent the development team on this project. What I think you'll have regarded in the past and may regard in this instance as a request for a gentle density increase, a 2-lot project going from single family to 2 family, allowing for housing units this close to Nolensville Pike in the urban transect. Although we did originally request, as correctly noted, the R8 zoning district, given that it is in an urban transect, it does probably make more sense to utilize the alternative district, and therefore we are completely willing to go with that recommended rezoning. We recognize that that's actually going to help us in terms of utilizing alley access for the loading into the lots, reduce some of the neighborhood concerns with regard to reasonable concerns like on-street parking in streets that are not terribly wide to begin with, and while making a small change in the density in the area, still trying to do so in a thoughtful way. We are fortunate and delighted to be working with Councilmember Welsh on this project. Fortunately, especially the folks who I'm working with here, Jody Roberts and Matthew McKinney, Matthew joining me here tonight, have worked with that council member in the past in District 16 and have looked for creative ways to find gentle density increases such that we can add to our housing stock. As correctly noted by staff earlier tonight, that's not our only solution to meeting the housing need in Nashville, particularly with regard to affordable housing solutions. Nevertheless, it is a small piece of the puzzle, and we've continued to, or my clients have continued to look for projects where they can create this type of gentle increase. Ultimately, we're pleased to adapt and adapt to the staff's recommended R8A zoning district. Although it wasn't originally what we sought, we've already started reworking some of the concept plans to make sure that it can work adequately in the area. Councilmember Welsh and I talked earlier today before the meeting, what I was prepared to say earlier just shortly before this meeting, but what I'll now refer to as several hours ago when we talked. We talked about the fact that there would be a need for a community meeting, whether it be Zoom or in person or whatever she determines to be appropriate, so that we can talk with the neighbors more and hear the concerns and see if there's still more ways that we can adopt good ideas and adapt the project accordingly. With staff's recommended approval on the R8A, with the council members' support, which we appreciate and are flattered by, we would humbly request your approval tonight as well. With permission, I'd like to hold back a little bit of time for rebuttal if needed.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone speaking in support of this project? Good evening. You'll have 2 minutes and state your name and address.
Good evening. So my name is Justin Head, and I live at 765 Hill Road. I own the lot that would be directly across. It's 437 Patterson. And everything that I've understood, you know, that they're wanting to do, I just kind of wanted to show up tonight and voice my support that I would support it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in support? Anybody speaking in opposition? No one speak, so no opposition? Okay. Well, with that, I don't know if the applicant wants to come use your 2 minutes for rebuttal.
I'll choose to decline, Madam Chair.
Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing, and I will defer to my fellow commissioners if we want, since this was on the consent.
Let me make sure I'm making the right approval. Making the right motion, sorry, not approval. I'm making a motion to approve staff recommendation for R8A.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion for that.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and thank you for hanging out with us for several hours. Okay, and so that brings us to our last item, which is item 28.
I'm Dustin Shane, staff planner. Item 28 is Riverview at Cumberland Hills Subdivision Concept Plan. It's a request for a concept plan approval to create 36 cluster lots. Our recommendation is approved with conditions. The current zoning on the site is R20. Policy is T3 suburban neighborhood maintenance with a little bit of conservation that covers a wet weather conveyance. Here's the lot layout that they've submitted showing the 36 proposed lots, the extension of one existing road and then 2 new roads, also with stub outs to the north. So this is a review of subdivisions, granted this body authority by TCA, technical review, approval or disapproval, to be made within 60 days after the initial consideration. It's important to note this was previously approved in 2017, but it expired. So this is very similar to what was approved at that time with actually just one less lot. So this is a cluster lot, which is allowed by right based on the zoning. Cluster lot provides flexibility of design. It requires common open space, preservation of natural features to some extent. The maximum lot yield here does not increase. It's 36 based on the 19.85 acres on site. The lots may be reduced to zoning districts. So in that case, this is from 20,000 square feet down to 10,000 square feet. Open space required to be at 15% of the development. They're doing one recreational facility as required. They're extending one road from the east, Cumberland Hills Drive, which will be the sole access at this time. They're adding 2 new public roads with stub outs to the north, with right-of-way dedicated up to the property line so that if in the future those properties do develop, more connections can be made. Type 3 buffer yards are proposed along the edges. So our recommendation is to approve with conditions. And like I said, the access, at this time, there's only one, but they are providing the required stub outs to provide for future access to the north if those properties develop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Is the applicant here? Good evening. You'll have 10 minutes and can hold 2 back for rebuttal.
Okay. My name is Michael Dewey with Dewey Engineering. Our address is 2925 Berry Hill Drive in Nashville, 37204. This project's got a lot of history. It was originally approved, the concept plan was originally approved in January of 2018. And as Mr. Shane mentioned, it expires in 4 years. So it expired in January of this year. It was under contract. We're now working with the new property owner, Patterson Homes, who had the property under contract in March. And so now that we're back here asking for reapproval of the original concept plan. There's not been any revisions to this plan. One lot has been removed from this plan per some calculations that we worked with Mr. Shane on. But other than that, there's not been any revisions to this plan. The subdivision regulations haven't changed since the original approval. The stormwater regulations have changed. However, we've gotten reapproval of the stormwater plans since that time. And we did receive 2 phone calls within the past month and a half since the notices went out. One was in regards to landscape buffer. I relayed that to the property owner, the developer. He contacted the neighbor, and they were able to work out their questions regarding landscape buffer. The other call that we received was about traffic, about speeding on Twin Hills Road, I believe, and relayed that concern to the developer. He called the neighbor back, but was not able to get back in touch with them. So I believe I will just reserve the rest of our time for rebuttal.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone speaking in support of this project? Anyone speaking in opposition? Okay. Come forward, you'll have 2 minutes and state your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Colby Miller, 2513 Val Marie Drive. I'm actually the president of the Homeowners Association of the Enclave at Twin Hills, but 2 minutes will be just fine. You may have actually addressed one of the specific concerns of ours with the plans. Val Marie Drive and the Enclave is the cul-de-sac neighborhood directly to the south of this proposed development, and on lots 26, 27, and 28, the plans doesn't show a landscape buffer between properties within our neighborhood and the proposed lots, and we just think that it's mutually beneficial for our existing residents that we have there, and then for prospective residents so that they aren't looking directly into the side yards or backyards of our residents. Seems to be something that's fairly commonsensical. The second one is more just kind of a consideration aspect of the land itself. One of the concerns that I've heard from our residents is the disruption to the wildlife that exists currently and have the habitats within the area that's going to be development, deer, turkeys, these sort of things. But the more concern is that there are predatory wildlife as well, including pack of coyotes that we believe reside there, and we're particularly concerned of kind of interaction with those during the development. We have small children, small animals that are in close proximity of it. As I look through the documentation of the staff recommendations, I didn't see anything kind of speaking to that. I'm just curious as to what policy the Planning Commission gives to that sort of consideration as these developments occur. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others speaking in opposition?
It's good to see some of you again after 5 years. My name is Chris Weigel. I live at 405 Cumberland Hills Drive. It is the property at the terminus of Cumberland Hills Drive. I have several concerns. Primarily is we are at the terminus of the sole entrance to this development. The traffic in front of our house obviously is going to increase from almost 0 to 45 different units. And I think in general, it would make sense to me that a development such as this should have more than one way in and one way out. I speak for several of the other neighbors on Northside Drive. So Northside Drive is where the concern about speeding would be. This neighborhood, the Northside neighborhood, we've got about 60 homes there and about 3 times the space. And so increasing, 75% on traffic from that only way in and out from Gallatin Road, which is a huge traffic nightmare in Rivergate, if you've ever been through, is very concerning for the neighbors and for us specifically, being right there at the entrance to the new neighborhood. Second concern is the water issue. Currently, there's a lot of water that drains from the neighborhood through our backyard. We actually get a lot of flooding in our backyard. We get stuff picked up and moved into our yard. So that's a concern for us as well. What does that mean during the development? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Weigel. I also live at 405 Cumberland Hills Drive. And just kind of to reiterate his point with the traffic, our neighborhood has no sidewalks and no streetlights at night, so it's super dark. Our daughter actually got hit by a car in that neighborhood, so to increase, another 45 to honestly, it could be more than that, cars is super concerning for us. The other thing is a lot of neighbors aren't here, but in regards to the notices, we did get a notice for sure, but our neighborhood is like he said, about 60 homes. And I don't know the exact, I think she said 1,000 feet. This is affecting the whole neighborhood, even though they're not right next to this development. The traffic is going to increase significantly. And I know that our neighbors kind of on the side closer to Northside Drive did not get notifications. So I think probably a lot of people in our neighborhood don't know that this is happening. But we did get a notification. But other than that, really, for me, it's just that we have no sidewalks and the lights, no lights. And there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood that walk on the streets. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, then if the applicant wants to use your 2 minutes for rebuttal.
I'm Michael Dew with Dew Engineering again. I'll address the one of the concerns was the sole entrance in and out, and that was discussed at the previous meeting in 2017. Planning asked us to make the connection to Val Marie, which is the stub road to the southwest, to the south portion of the site. That is a permanent dead end that does not have right-of-way extended all the way to the property line. So as much as we wanted, we didn't care at the time to make that connection or not, but unfortunately the neighbors on Val Marie spoke highly against that connection, and furthermore showed that the right-of-way does not extend all the way to that property line. So there is only one access into this property. However, Public Works has asked us to provide stub roads to the north to East Hill Drive, where possible for future connectivity. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have, but I just wanted to relay the history on the stub roads.
Thank you. Okay, I will declare the public hearing closed. And Commissioner Blackshear?
Sure. As a preliminary matter, I know Alex is looking forward to this. If you could help us just understand our role in determining whether a subdivision request should be approved, that'd be great.
Sure. And if you'll remember, this is kind of shaped by several different recent cases we've had. On one end, you have the prohibition against considering it for straight harmoniousness. That's prohibited under the law, but you can, you are permitted to consider under the subdivision regulations all of the different items that are included within section 3-12, which includes, as one of the issues that may be considered, the adopted general plan, including its constituent elements, and the major street plan. So it also has to comply with the regular zoning, the subdivision regulations, and then those items contained within that. So I would just ask, I recommend that whatever decision you make, that you make it clear in the record what the basis for your decision is and how that ties to the items in the subdivision regulations.
That's really helpful. Going through, obviously, the public hearing and then hearing specifically the staff's analysis, I would be in agreement with the staff's recommendation, but I do have, I guess, questions about the neighbors who live right along the sole entrance and exit of the subdivision. So I see here that there are traffic calming requests that can be made with NDOT. And can you just speak a little bit to that process? So to the extent that you're worried about traffic, you're worried about your daughter's safety, how do you go about requesting that something be done? And I guess, what is a traffic calming measure? Is that a speed bump? Are those like the bumble strips? And how long does it take for those to go in? And when can you make that request? I guess, what is that process?
So typically, NDOT opens up application deadlines during certain parts of the year. I think that there is one going now. I was about to try to Google it to make sure, because that is handled through NDOT. But generally, neighborhoods can apply for the traffic calming program. And traffic calming can take many different forms. It really depends on sort of the neighborhood and the context and what might be appropriate for that particular neighborhood. Some things are very, I would say, low disruption, such as like paint on the roads and those sorts of things. Other things require actual construction. We don't typically do speed bumps anymore. There are some creative uses in East Nashville of chicanes, which are sort of where a road shifts and moves. Those are some of the more dramatic changes, I would say. Now, what I would suggest is that not every neighborhood that applies for traffic calming is chosen for the program. There's a ranking that's involved. We could I think you all could certainly be within your purview to ask this, as a condition of approval, to ask the developer to work with NDOT to see if there are possible traffic calming solutions that could be implemented sort of outside of that program, but just as part of this development. Does that help?
Yeah, that does help. I think that will be an appropriate request. I mean, obviously, it will be a big change to have this development in that area right by your home be the only way for the residents to get in and out, and especially if there's already problems with safety, traffic safety, that'd be great. And I don't know about the lights, who would be the appropriate entity to get street lights for that area, but I mean, I'm assuming NDOT.
Hold on just a second, let me check something.
You can confirm if you want to continue. Yeah,
so that's within the general services district, and so that is likely why there are not streetlights.
Okay.
So streetlights are, the standards for streetlights would be different within the urban services district versus general services, and this is within general services.
Gotcha. Well, I guess that ties our hands just a bit, but the traffic calming piece would be really helpful. And to the extent that the neighborhood could not be prioritized pursuant to NDOT's ranking, it would be nice for them to be able to get traffic calming measures otherwise in the area. So that's my comments.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. So I'm looking at the larger picture. Seems like this subdivision will be connected to Cumberland Hills Drive, and then go left to North Side Drive to go to Gallatin. So Cumberland Hills Drive, do you have any history of that? How long does it plan to be connected for the future subdivision, such as this subject property?
I'm not sure. I don't know if you could restate it. I'm not certain of what you were asking there.
So I'm asking if the existing Cumberland Hills Drive is constructed to be able to carry on additional 36, 45 units traffic to connect it. Yeah, that's my question.
Yes, sorry. The capacity of Cumberland Hills Drive. Yes, so we spoke with NDOT to ask about traffic generation from the proposed development, and essentially they said that a development of this size would have around 35 additional peak hour trips, and that the road capacity can handle those additional trips.
So do you have a category like MCAS, like a category? Is this clearly not a territory? Is this a collector street?
It is a local street.
It's a local street?
Yes.
Okay. What's the makeup of sidewalks and so forth? Is there no sidewalks?
There are not sidewalks on Cumberland Hills. Okay. They were likely not required when that was developed.
So in this general, service area, the inside of the subdivision, would there be requirement sidewalks within that subdivision?
Within the new subdivision, yes, sidewalks are required on both sides of all of the new streets, consistent with the current standards of the subdivision regulations.
And so there was a question about I see, landscaping buffer on facing Cumberland Hills Drive area, but the 1 through 9 is facing New Street. But would there be any landscaping buffer to existing is it north or east of the Cumberland Hills Drive in that existing property?
Yes. At the rear of lots 1 through 5, there is landscape buffer.
Okay. It seems like there was a comment, there's no landscaping plan currently 26 through 28.
That's correct. And so those are The way that the landscape buffer requirements work in the cluster lot standards, it's based on the size of the adjacent lots as it relates to the amount that you're clustering down the new lots. And so where you have sort of either smaller lots or like lots, a landscape buffer is not required. And so because the lots that are east of lots 1 through 5 are larger, then the buffer is required. But because the lots that are west of 26, 27, 28 are smaller, then a buffer is not required there. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
It's based on how much the lots are reduced.
Right.
The developer may have an opportunity to be able to put some landscaping there, just if they want to work with the applicant, but it wouldn't be required per the regs.
Is this something we can require as a, better transition towards existing neighborhood to new proposed subdivision?
My recommendation, I think in talking with Alex maybe and hearing his earlier guidance, would be that the land use policy would support transitions between neighborhoods, and therefore and we maybe could come up with some specific policy language, and for that reason you would want to increase the buffer than as currently shown. I don't think we could root it in the subregs because it's not required, but I do think we could talk about the policy if that's something you would like to pursue.
Yeah, I think it would be, definitely good, especially there's already existing neighbors. So if anything new development comes out, and especially this one is cul-de-sac, so it's no connectivity. So it seems like having landscaping buffer to transition from existing to new proposal seems appropriate. So I don't remember exact length of the street, but this new street within the subdivision, does it meet a fire requirement within, certain cul-de-sac requirement?
It does, yes. And so from the point that Cumberland Hills intersects with the new road north is within the length that's allowed. And then because of the configuration of the loop road, then it does. It meets the fire standard, and fire has recommended approval.
Well, thank you. So with that, as sad as I can feel the neighbors having extra, lot, but connectivity, but I would like for the, community or working with the community would like the developer to think about the traffic calming measure, because it will be definitely coming from Gallatin to North Side Drive to Cumberland Hills. So need to think about some kind of traffic calming mechanism, especially those streets are local street. So that, and I would like to the development team to consider landscaping buffer 26 through 28 in that section. And unfortunately, there was a question about the protection of the animal during the construction. I don't think Metro has any regulation or, that's not within subdivision regulation. So it's so unfortunate we cannot comment on that. So with that, I cannot say this proposal does not meet a subdivision regulation. I think all the, requirements are met. So I will live with that.
Councilman Withers?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank the presenter and thank the neighbor for coming out. Really appreciate that information about why the connection was not made to the south. I went and visited this area kind of from both sides to see, what it was like. And that was one thing that struck me, is to say, why is there not a connection to the south? So that information about the lack of right-of-way there is helpful. I know it doesn't satisfy the neighbors on the north side, but that's helpful context. My observation of the area along Northside Drive, I'm sympathetic to the neighbors about traffic and share your concern about injuries from walking on streets that lack sidewalks, because that is a concern throughout the city. My observation is that the area on North Side has very little connectivity. And so there are stub streets that go a certain distance and then they either stub out or have a cul-de-sac or whatnot. And, I live in the historic urban neighborhoods, and we have lots and lots of connectivity. And even some of our areas of our neighborhoods, sometimes what it comes down to, unless there is a destination point that someone is going to, such as a school or something like that, opposite where a location is, sometimes the sad fact is that the drivers who are endangering pedestrians on our street are our very own neighbors. And just want to remind people of that you will have some new neighbors for sure, and we as a city want to encourage people to drive safely and things like that. But it's not necessarily the case that a new section of houses creates more danger than already exists in an area, because we just need all Nashvillians to slow down and pay attention. For areas that lack streetlights in particular as well, appreciate the context of it being general services district. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I would, Councilmember Young would help me with this, but I think sometimes if you have an HOA that you can sometimes HOAs pay for their own streetlights, but it's not included in the tax rolls that we have for in the way that it is for the urban services district. So I definitely really do appreciate those concerns, and like I said, I think seeing if there is a way to work with NDOT would be good. It seems like somewhat the neighborhood to the south of this development has at least a little bit more connectivity and circulation around some of the busier kind of business districts along Gallatin, and having gone down the north side, I can empathize with how difficult it is to get out of there if there's not a traffic light. So I definitely understand all those concerns, but again, kind of like Commissioner Johnston, and I find that the plan meets the subdivision regulations as recommended by staff, particularly with that explanation about the reason for a lack of access to the south. So, thank you.
Commissioner Clifton.
I am a little rusty on subdivision work. Haven't really had to think about it a lot until recently. But just to be sure I understand, we're saying, it sounds like your colloquy, Commissioner Johnson, indicates that we all seem to know that we can't put as a condition of approval of a subdivision something like required buffering. Or can we?
So the context with which we're reviewing subdivisions has evolved over the last year, given several court cases that I think certainly say that we must follow the subdivision regulations. We can't disapprove subdivisions based on things like harmony or general principles, but the courts have said that we can consider land use policy more broadly than perhaps we were doing during your previous time with the commission. And so for that reason, I suggested to your colleague that if we wanted to propose buffers, for example, on lots 26, 27, and 28, that I believe we could make that recommendation. I'm looking at council, but per his guidance previously, we need to say where and on what basis we would make that recommendation. And the basis for that, I think, would need to come from the general plan, where we have language around appropriate transitions, incorporating green spaces into urban networks and the like. That is a new That is new territory for us. That is not something we would typically put on the table as a requirement because it is not required in the subdivision regulations. But given some of the recent court decisions, which suggests that we can take other criteria into account, we are proceeding as such. Counselor, what do you think?
I agree with that. I think usually we're considering this from the opposite side, right? Reasons why you would disapprove. But I think it cuts both ways. If the courts are requiring for us to be able to consider all the different items there, then it's probably appropriate if you have a condition that's specifically tied to a source of law in this list, that if you base it on that, it seems to reason that it would cut that way also.
I appreciate why you would be questioning this. It is a new space for us, and so I'm happy to continue to work with the commission on how we think about these.
So, of all of the very understandable concerns that folks have raised, buffering might be the most easily tackleable.
Yes, I think we could require a condition that they work with the NDOT on traffic mitigation work, whatever that looks like, prior to final site plan approval. And I think we could require a buffer for those properties, given language in the general plan around transition. And I don't know if you'd want to go that far or if you'd want to get a specific buffer into place. But I do think that's something that we could entertain.
Well, that's above my pay grade in terms of wording it, but I think it's not above Commissioner Johnson's pay grade. And I would like to suggest, if she is moved to do so, that she put that in the form of a motion. Can I do that?
Commissioner Tibbs still has to speak,
I'm
but
sorry.
then
I will maybe suggest that at some point.
I feel so do you mind, it seems like the applicant wants to say something. Do you mind, since we open up, I don't know if he has something worth, do you guys mind if we open up public hearing for that?
You don't have to open it up. I think this would bring it back up.
This would automatically bring it back.
Jackson Nichols Patterson Company. We're the builder and developer. We're here local out of Franklin. One thing we do different to separate ourselves is landscaping buffers and the individual home landscaping packages. So happy to work with the neighbors because we want to make the best decision for our homeowners as well. And so there's some lot depths and public utility easements that need to come into consideration about every single individual lot. But we want the same thing as the neighbors do as a landscape buffer. So we're happy to consider what that looks like when we get further down the road with product and lot fits and utility easements.
Thank you. I'll follow Commissioner Clifton and ask Commissioner Johnson to more eloquently make the motion. I feel like it's landed on me so many times anyways. This is also for coming in late, right? This is my other thing. I kind of think I remember this case from years ago, and I remember like really trying to get that connection and understanding the limitations. So I'll pass it off to you.
Wow, thank you. Pressure. So I will move to approve this agenda item with additional condition that development team work with the community with additional landscaping buffer on lot 26 through 28, and work with NDOT on appropriate traffic calming measure before the final subdivision approval.
That's a good motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Can you specify that as final site plan approval? Are you okay with that?
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye, so motion carries. Okay, that brings us to the end of our items. We only have a few things left in terms of the historic zoning. Any updates?
A quick update is, like Commissioner Tibbs, sometimes Historic Zoning Commissioner changes the seat. So at the last Historic Zoning Commission meeting, Commissioner Caitlin Jones and Commissioner Lee Fitz left the Historic Zoning Commission. So we as a team thanked for their continuous support and years of service. And Commissioner Cyril Stewart and Commissioner Lee Williams will be continuously serving on the Historic Zoning Commission. And at the next meeting, we will have 2 new Historic Zoning Commissioners.
Who are they again? Who are the new commissioners? Missed it.
Sorry. It's secret. I didn't bring our new commissioner's name, but we will have 2 new, brand new historic zoning commissioners because 2 brand new historic zoning commissioner just approved at the last council meeting.
Conspiracy.
Sorry, I did not write down. I do know the previous commissioners who has been served long term. So Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Fitz, they have served long term. So we really appreciate their service to this important commission. But I will certainly report the 2 new commissioners at the next meeting.
Okay.
So our parks representative left us, and I don't think we have any executive committee work. We've accepted the director's report, but is there anything else that you would like to add?
Well, so we released the draft East Bank plan. It feels like weeks ago, but I think it was 3 days ago. And the staff told me, so what I love about the engagement we're going to be doing for the next 3 weeks is we're going to farmers markets, we're holding in-office hours, we're trying to reach anybody who wants to come and visit us, and we're inviting ourselves to go everywhere. And the staff said, well, we hope the council members, show up and come and stop by, but, we'll understand if they can't because they were really busy. And then I got a text from one of the staff members after the farmers market, and she said, thank goodness both Councilman Withers and Parker showed up. We were overwhelmed with interest, and we really needed them to be there. They were answering questions and helping everybody kind of keep organized. So this is my shout out to you, Councilman Withers, for going above and beyond. We hoped you would stop by, but ended up you were really very needed. So anyway, all that's to say, we're excited to bring the East Bank plan to you as an informational presentation, not a vote, in early September. It's a complex enough plan that we feel like you should have one info item, and then depending on how the public comment period is going, we will hope to bring the item back to you for further review and sort of a formal review. Probably early October, but could be late September. We'll see. We're watching the comments come in. And so anyway, with that, just thanks again for your service and all of your work tonight. We're very grateful to you. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Withers, any updates from council?
No, I just, going to farmers markets is a lot of fun. So, invite us anytime. But just want to thank, all the staff who are working so hard. And I think right now it really is feels like all hands on deck for that. And I'm like, who's left in the department to do other stuff? So I know this is a major commitment from the planning department, but I think that it's really, really meaningful. I know there are also meetings going on for the compact development. So there are other things going on that I'm not at, which really gives me a migraine to think about what all you're managing. But just look forward to seeing what the results look like in a couple of weeks. So thank you.
Well, with that, see you all in 2 weeks. I know, I see that. It's pretty good.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.